And welcome everyone to another episode of Sharing with Shellshock. I am your host, ShellshockPrime, and tonight we are back with another podcast, another discussion on various topics. Tonight is Saturday Morning Cartoon Memories, where we talk about Saturday morning cartoons we grew up with, memories with them, our favorites, and so much more. And joining me, we got three guests tonight. We got CurtDogg, welcome.
Hello.
We got Jeremy, the Nostalgia Alchemist.
Hi, everybody.
And we got HitoRetroGaming.
What's up? It's your bear boy, Bo Cito.
Yep. And tonight, like right now, it is currently the four of us. I know that we have Zykrul lined up for the podcast, but if he's able to make it, he'll be able to pop in at any time. So there's that. But for now, it's just the four of us. But either way, we're going to be talking about Saturday morning cartoons. So, how you all doing today? Kurt, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm hanging out with a friend over in Tacoma right now.
Very nice.
Yeah, to be honest, I completely spaced that this podcast was going to be today. But luckily, I have technology with me, so I was able to make it work. So
yes. And how are you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing great. I am finally making another second return off of a small hiatus back to the world of internet entertainment. I took a couple of months off to try and figure out a couple of things. My daughter just turned 1, and my son turned 6 about 2 months ago, and life has been hectic, crazy, fun, exciting, but now that things are starting to become a little bit more routine, I'm able to figure out a schedule again and bring some great entertainment to everybody, and I'm super excited. So I'm feeling good today.
All right, that's good to hear. And Hito, what about you?
Doing all right. Currently working on a new opener for my channel and also fixing up my YouTube to do a lot more crazier stuff. So you got some stuff already lined up for the YouTube already.
Yep, that's very good to hear. And also good to see everybody that's in chat right now. Hope you all having a good Sunday. Because as of this recording, it's Sunday, May 28th, 2023, Memorial Day weekend, and we're going to talk about some Saturday morning cartoons. So, before we do, so let's talk about ourselves for a moment. Kurt, what type of content do you do?
So, online, I try and do, I do Twitch streams every now and again. I, post to YouTube, but my main thing that I do is a game show called Double Nintendo, which I put on at various conventions like PAX West and East, MagFest and West, and Portland Retro Gaming Expo are the main ones I do every year. I'm actually doing one next month in just outside of Philly at Too Many Games, so if anybody's in the Philly area, I'm going to be there. It's basically a Nintendo-themed version of that, of everyone's favorite old-school Nickelodeon game show, Get the Picture. No, I'm kidding. Double Dare. So we have Nintendo Trivia, Nintendo Digital Challenges, a Mario Maker obstacle course, and in between each round I add together these 90s commercial breaks just to give it that extra 90s flair. So, it's a lot of fun. So, that's my pride and joy right now.
Sounds good. Very good. Mm-hmm. Now, Jeremy, what about you?
Hi, everybody. If you have not seen me before, my name is Jeremy Lardiri. I am the Nostalgia Alchemist, and I am always here for whenever you remember why. I just mentioned that I was on a hiatus, but I am not only here on Twitch, I am also on other platforms as well. I run a podcast. I just restarted our YouTube channel where I'll be putting out a couple of YouTube videos in a little bit. Also going to be doing some semi-daily TikToks coming up soon. Now that I have a schedule back, I'll be able to bring you not only old school retro content, I'll be also bringing you a lot of different kinds of entertainment. I don't want to label myself as a content creator. I am an entertainer, and I am here to entertain you. And just remember that I am always here for whenever you remember why.
All right, very good. What about you, Hito?
Hi guys, I'm a variety content creator. I do a lot of Nintendo themed items. However, I also into all the classics and retro games as per the name. Hi to Retro Gaming, aka Hito Retro Gaming. I like to provide the very good vibes of a friends get-together / sleepover of all those times when you've played video games with your friends till 3 in the morning and fell asleep. talk about life, play video games, and pretty much enjoy it for all the memes that we currently make now. So, as always, we're here to bring the 8-bit love and those 8-bit memories back.
Yep. All right. Very good. All right. So, we got a lot to talk about today. So we're gonna get started with the first topic on Saturday morning cartoons. So, what were the earliest cartoons you watched on Saturday mornings? We're gonna start with you, Kurt.
All right. So, earliest cartoon I ever watched. It's kind of hard to answer because some of my earliest memories were kind of vague. Like, I definitely had Nickelodeon at a very, very early age. And one of my earliest memories was a very, very obscure one called Spartacus and the Sun Beneath the Sea. So this was like a European show that would air on Nickelodeon in the late 80s to early 90s. And it was one hell of a fever dream of a show. I can even barely explain what happened in it. But some of my earliest memories involved my mom just waking us up to watch that. For whatever reason, that was just something we would watch every single week. But that's like earliest memory I have. But I would say probably like in terms of like what I would watch like ritualistically, like at an early age. Other than that would be probably Ninja Turtles. Honestly, I was at the prime age to just be a huge Ninja Turtles fan. I was really into Pee-wee's Playhouse. I know that's not a cartoon, but it might as well just be a live-action cartoon in most respects.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was a big Pee-wee fan. I had the play set. I had the Pee-wee like suit and bow tie. I was just all about Pee-wee Herman.
Yeah.
I think I annoyed my grandma with how many impressions I would do of him. I would say, chocolately a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of those tapes just recorded off there, and there was one episode in particular where like Pee-wee turned himself invisible and like was floating around a piece of chocolate cake, and he was like eating. He said, chocolately. Yeah, that pissed my grandma off. I don't think she thought Pee-wee was a good influence on my behavior, but I mean, aside from like the screaming stuff, but I would just that's basically my earliest memories would be Pee-wee's Playhouse, Ninja Turtles, and stuff on Nickelodeon. Just like Spartacus and David the Gnome. Not so much. So I know the topic is specifically like Saturday morning cartoons. I didn't really start like. I guess CBS would be the only one I really have any memories of watching that stuff on, like until the 90s anyway.
Yeah. All right. Those are some good choices. What about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, going off of the CBS, the Saturday Rocks on CBS block. It had Raggedy Ann and Andy. It had, oh my gosh, I remember Muppet Babies, I think was either on ABC or CBS. I think it was on CBS.
Yeah, it was on CBS.
Great lineup of Saturday morning cartoons. And I mean, if we're talking about syndication, when we started to get, well, let me take it back for a moment. My earliest memories were again a couple of live action shows. Romper Room, I was at the tail end of.
Romper Room. I forgot all about that one.
Zoobly Zoo was another one that really got me into theater, was starring Ben Vereen. Of course, those aren't Saturday morning cartoons, but those are just some of the shows that I remember very early on had that heavy influence on me. And then leading into cartoons, definitely shows like Muppet Babies and, oh my gosh, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, DuckTales. But I mean, I am my own, like, I am my name. I am the Nostalgia Alchemist. I can go back really far. So I remember all the Filmation shows. I remember He-Man and She-Ra and Brave Star. And I even remember Gilligan's Planet.
Oh, so yeah, I remember that.
That is a throwback. So anyway, that is kind of where my earliest nostalgic memories lie. When it comes to really heavily flushed out memories, it started a little bit later. It started around 90. I must have been 6 or 7, so that was around 91, 92. So a lot of those Saturday morning blocks that were in were like Super Mario Brothers Super Show, which then became Super Mario Brothers 3, then Super Mario World. I remember A lot of variety shows like Scooby Doo had a couple of different franchises out. Flintstone Kids, Tom and Jerry Kids. There were these random sports shows like a soccer something or whatever. The other
Pro
big
Stars?
ones might have been Pro Stars. Yes, it might have been Pro Stars. But then there was this other one, and it just slipped my mind. 91. When Nickelodeon started coming out, I got cable around 92, 93. But when Doug came out, I was all about Doug. I was all about watching that whenever they had their brand of Nicktoons Saturday mornings. And then when we get into our flow in a little bit, then I'll talk more about, as we got older and what we watched more of. But those are some of my earliest nostalgic memories.
Yep. Okay. That's fair enough. Hito, what about you?
So I'm a 90s baby. I was born in 93. So I did see a lot of shows. However, the thing is, it didn't start off as cartoons originally. It started off with things like Power Rangers by Saban. Big Bad Beetleborgs was a big one for me.
Yeah.
I still have the theme song stuck in my brain because I started rewatching it on Netflix.
Yes.
And I'm just remembering everything as it slowly happens. I just remember the comic book strip cartoons part that will go into it. Like, it was comic book strips and live show. But if we're going to go into cartoons, Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network was a big one, but Fox was another one, which they had Bobby's World.
Oh, yeah!
That's where I first started on Bobby's World. I didn't know what the show was about because I barely remember it. But I do remember that my mom was a big fan of getting me video cassettes, though, so she would get me things that were not even on TV, things like Gerber, The Magical School Bus.
God.
There was this one about a whole bunch of, like I said, it's a lot of stuff. Like, I'm remembering these, like, past shows that I barely remember, like, it was Gerbert, Gerbert, there we go, that was another one, but that was more puppets. If I remember correctly, that one was more puppet and live kids going in. But my first instance would be Nickelodeon, where I was a big Rugrats fan when I was a kid. I loved the Rugrats so much. There was literally times that at this point, if I didn't record the episodes each and every time, like, my mom would just record the episodes and just make me watch them over again and again. She's like, I don't have to spend money on on buying the actual video cassettes at Blockbuster. We could just record the episodes and you'll just watch them forever and ever. And that's where I was stuck on. It would be like, I would watch the same episodes of Rugrats over and over again. Hey Arnold was not my heyday until I got a little bit older, but I did like CurtDogg a lot.
Yeah.
And
I have feelings about CurtDogg.
I have feelings about CurtDogg too, trust me. Rewatching it was like, the rose-colored glass had shattered on my eyes. That's how, like, dang. But Rugrats, CurtDogg, Bobby's World, and then for Cartoon Network, I was really big on Dexter's Lab.
Yeah. That's a good one.
So, and of course, Courage. Gotta add Courage.
There we go.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The things I do for love.
Yep. Oh.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my earliest memories were just like, definitely way before, like, obviously, like, I love a lot of the Nickelodeon shows growing up and, a lot of the Fox Kids stuff, but yeah, for whatever reason, I didn't really start retaining memories until I was about, like, 4 years old. So, I have autism, so it's like, so a lot of like, that developmental stuff was, like, kind of, like, only really jolted when I was like 4 or 5.
Right.
So a lot of that early stuff I probably was watching on TV is probably like vague memories. But yeah, I didn't really start remembering things until about 1990 or 91-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's where most of my nostalgia lies. But yeah, those early shows are just fever dreams to me at this point.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah. So my personal experience in regards to Saturday morning cartoons is I started watching Saturday morning cartoons as early as I want to say 1989 is the furthest back that I could actually remember. So
it's the same with me.
Yeah, because for me, I remember my older brother and my cousin. My younger brother was a baby around that time, and I was watching Ninja Turtles. I was watching, I watched Nickelodeon, but Nickelodeon was a much different channel back in the late 80s compared to how it was in the 90s.
Pre-Orange label.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what I remember is, I watched, like, the main channels that I would watch on Saturday mornings were, because Fox Kids did not exist until 1990, so...
Yeah, it was the big three. It was CBS, NBC, and ABC.
Yes.
Wait, Fox did technically exist in the 90s, but it wasn't under Fox Kids. It was a different name.
Yeah, it was mostly syndicated stuff. Fox...
It was mostly Saban. Saban mostly took over the Fox channel, which is why we had things like Power Rangers and Beetleborgs, even I believe some earlier heydays of like Kamen Rider too at some point.
Oh God, that show, Mask Rider. Oh, the less said about that, the better. But anyway,
Saban was actually like even before Fox Kids, Saban was like doing a lot of stuff for Nickelodeon. Like they dubbed a lot of like anime.
They did.
They dubbed 2 different shows about koalas.
Yes, Noozles.
Weird. Yeah, Noozles and Adventures of the Little Koalas.
Yes,
I didn't even know those were 2 separate shows.
Exactly. Those 2 were shows that I've actually watched. They were back to back. And Noozles, they had a character where the voice actress would go on to become Angelica Pickles in Rugrats.
Yeah.
And so those 2 shows I do remember. There was another show called The Little Bits, which aired on Nick Jr., and that's also from Saban. Well, Saban dubbed. But Saban dubbed a lot of shows. What I also remember, like, watching shows from one particular company that had terrible animation, and that's Deke Entertainment.
Deke! Yes, Deke!
Deke!
I mean, I will say, though, Inspector Gadget was pretty good.
Inspector Gadget was good, but I, too, have watched Super Mario Bros. Super Show. I watched it when I was 3, before I even knew what a Nintendo was.
I loved Super Mario and the Super Show.
And
my son watches that with me.
Every Friday, we would have The Legend of Zelda in its place. We would still have the Mario live action, but they would show Legend of Zelda instead. And what I remember was there was a show on NBC that had a couple of Nintendo characters called Captain and the Game Master. That show, oh my God, that show.
DVDs of the entire series of that.
Like,
same. I actually have my collector set up.
I got mine upstairs.
That show was hot garbage.
It was, but
I'm not gonna lie, it's that reason why the show got me stuck on Cyndi Lauper as like an artist. Because they had her guest star in one of the episodes.
Oh yeah.
And then I ended up just liking all her music. I'm like,
this
is why.
They had
you can't go wrong with Cyndi Lauper though.
Like Mario Super Show, they had like all these guest stars. Like they had like even wrestlers like Rowdy Roddy Piper and Sergeant Slaughter. People also remember Sergeant Slaughter for being a part of GI.
Was Mario.
People,
he had those connections. Lil Albano was in that Cyndi Lauper video too.
He was. The girls just want to have fun. But Sergeant Slaughter was a part of the GI Joe cartoon for a while. And what I also remember was they even have a live action Inspector Gadget on the show, played by voice actor Maurice LaMarche, which he appeared in 2 of them. Like, I thought that it was absolutely ridiculous. I actually loved it for how hysterical it was. And what I also remember in terms of other shows, I watched Muppet Babies. I've watched the Smurfs.
Yes.
I've watched Alvin and the Chipmunks. I used to watch a lot of that show growing up. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it so much that all those live action movies, I've never actually seen them. I could not bring myself to actually...
Yeah, probably best bet you don't need to.
You know, the other thing too...
I know you want to get the rich lore behind them, but yeah, I feel like...
The thing I want to just quickly interject on, though, is like... When we used to watch Alvin and the Chipmunks and even Super Mario Brothers Super Show, they would put in pop songs of the time with very minimal gateway. You know, you could just say, "Hey, we want to record this song," and they're like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." It's like a cover, and it was used as like a way to promote the song. And then at the end of the show, you kind of like give a small credit. Like I remember that "Bad" by Michael Jackson was in the animated sequence of Mario in Cramalot. You know, and no one would ever think that Sony would lend out a Michael Jackson song to anyone nowadays. But I mean, like back then, it was just commonplace to have shows like that. Even like Gem and the Holograms, like that show had a ton of original music, but it was all just written based off of that pop sound at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Iconic now.
Speaking of
that wasn't a show I watched as a kid, but like looking back on it, I was like, I watched a couple episodes, like these songs are really good.
What happened, Hito?
And to add on to that, like Deke also used that pop sound pop sound for their Sailor Moon dub, because all of the songs that were done in the English dub, those were all original songs. They weren't based on the original Japanese soundtrack.
Yeah.
So they used basically all of their like pool on Deke, and they specifically were like, we have a dub for Sailor Moon, but we want to add our own interludes and stuff and make it sound great. So you have songs like Carry On and Power of Love going off in a Sailor Moon anime, and just the soundtrack itself, it makes it sound like a Gem's like whole discography going through the series.
Yeah. And I don't know if you guys ever like watched like the Super Show on Netflix or DVD and stuff. I mean, probably you have, but yeah, you'll notice they cut out all those licensed songs and just kind of replace them with the, I don't want to say a generic track, because the music I feel like kind of fits for the most part.
Yeah,
it's just like it sounds like an actiony Mario thing.
It is generic.
It's
generic.
Because
there's one exception that it didn't fit, was like, you remember the episode of Mario 3 cartoon where they guested where Milli Vanilli was in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when they put that out on DVD and streaming and stuff, they just straight up replaced all their singing scenes with just generic music, and it just does not fit at all.
Yeah, it doesn't fit.
Like they're just lip syncing, and it's just all during that whole scene. You just hear da 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 da.
They even acknowledged one of the names of the songs, which was "Girl, You Know It's True." And I have a fun fact about that episode. That episode, it actually aired just before the whole lip syncing controversy even started. Like before that one concert where they were actually caught lip syncing. And you would hear, like, when they were singing "Girl, You Know It's True," you would hear the song tape, like, looping around, like, "Girl, you know it's, girl, you know it's," and all that. And then that was when the whole thing actually started. So, they did, however, took that out, like, when they aired a rerun of it, like, while the season was still going. But in every other one afterwards, they took, like, all the copyrighted music out and replaced it with that one track, which actually did have lyrics originally. It actually came from Captain N.
Mega Move.
Yeah, Mega Move.
People are getting paid for lip syncing now, so that should be funny right there.
Yeah.
I would be remiss if we didn't mention, before we move on from our nostalgia stuff and from the earliest memories that we have, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Cartoon All-Stars 2: The Rescue.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Does anybody remember this half-hour special that aired?
How can we forget?
Right, so Hito looks a little bit... Okay, so Hito, during the phony baloney war on drugs era, during the Reagan administration, the FTC put out a request from the Action of Parents or whatever for, something television. Yeah. They demanded that the FTC just be like, hey, look, you got to make something that says, say no to drugs or whatever. And they advertised all of our favorite cartoon characters on Saturday mornings in syndication, like Garfield, Michelangelo from Ninja Turtles, the DuckTales characters, Muppet Babies, even Bugs Bunny, they all of them, the Smurfs even, Alvin and the Chipmunks even, they all were just crammed into this 1.5 hour TV special, and we all thought it was going to be this massively epic like showcase of them going on an adventure together, and then it was just convincing this random kid Michael not to use drugs, and it's like, what? Like the peak.
I remember remember this.
That was the peak. Right. That was the peak of animation right before the 90s animation renaissance. That was the point where they were like, okay, this is what we shouldn't do. Here's what we should do. And then Tiny Toons came. Then Animaniacs came. And Warner Brothers had this huge resurgence. Then years later, they had Kids WB. Disney did the same. They took all of their stuff from Disney Channel and they put it into the Disney Afternoon. I mean, look what the shirt I'm wearing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that one cartoon taught the entire industry what not to do when you cram all of the best things into one. And they all went their own way and said, you know what? We're going to make this work. And it worked for a decade.
I do want to say, I feel like in terms of that discussion, I honestly think, I mean, we could probably like segue this into the next next section of the show, but in terms of like, you know, I feel like Doug is probably the most important cartoon. It's understated how important Doug is.
Doug is top
of, like,
3
how
for
that
me.
changed.
Top 3 for me.
Because I feel like that like was the beginning. Like I know, like, you know, the three original Nicktoons, Doug, Rugrats, Ren, and Stimpy, that launched like Nickelodeon's brand of like creator-driven cartoons. But I feel like Doug was more influential than a lot of people give credit for, because it's just like it's about a kid just, you know, trying to get through middle school and just having this weird obsessions and things like that, and weird anxiety
and imagination. Like the kid literally he's literally an average 11-year-old kid who just moved to a new town, has no friends, has no history, and he's literally just this very imaginative kid who's trying to make his way. And just like you said,
and it was just a show that wasn't like trying to like sell toys or anything. Like, how can you sell a Doug toy? And it's just like, it was basically just selling the network.
I would buy a Quail Man action figure any day.
I mean, yeah, true.
I think for the sake that we could say this, Doug was kind of like a more mature Arthur.
Yeah.
More or less.
I can see that. Sure. Yeah. I didn't watch a lot of Arthur, but I can totally see that.
Yeah.
I need to find this image, but there's like this image someone made of just like Doug likes, like what they call Doug likes. It's just like, oh, Pepper Ann is Girl Doug. Leroy in Space is Space Doug. The Weekenders is 4 Dougs.
Space Doug.
And Recess is Doug at school. Doug on the playground.
Right, and then Detention was their way of saying Recess is the bad side of what Doug would have been with friends.
Oh yeah, like I watched a lot of Doug growing up myself, and the main thing is I absolutely love the show. Well, the Nickelodeon show.
Yes, correct.
But
yes, we have to divide there.
We have to clarify.
The Disney one, I could not get into it. The reason why I could not get into the Disney one is multitude of reasons. Number one, they changed everything. Like, for example, the Hunker Burger got destroyed and replaced with Shea Hunk or whatever it is that they called it.
I think it was like an ice cream parlor. It was like Mr. Swirly something.
They actually had that as a separate thing, but the Hunker Burger, spot itself turned into like a French style restaurant. Roger became rich because for whatever reason,
person to get rich.
For whatever reason, like the trailer park lot got sold and they were buying it out, and then Roger's mother even said we were gonna get a lot of money, we're gonna be rich, because Roger at first didn't want to leave, but it was like, but then when she was like, we're gonna be rich, that changed his mind, like, because money obviously makes you change your mind for everything. So yeah, of course. But yeah, so
I will give credit to Disney's Doug. Like, even though I didn't really enjoy that version of the show that much, I feel like they handled that first episode in the best possible way, because they knew that it wasn't going to be the same show. So it's like, I feel like having those changes, introducing those sudden changes, it was an inevitability. Like, they knew it was going to change. So it's just, I feel like that was their way of just kind of like prepping kids that were fans of Doug's, like, hey, things change over time. Everything can't stay the same forever. So it's like, I will give them credit for attempting to, like, you know, showcase that, you know, in that episode.
It just felt Disney tried to take it too much of tried to make it too much of a drama, of a coming of age thing, instead.
Yeah, they tried to franchise Doug, and that's exactly what I was, like, you know, trying to get at earlier. It's just like, you can't really make a toy out of Doug or franchise, but like Disney definitely tried. They did that movie, Doug's first and last movie. They had like a live musical stage show at like Disney World,
which I loved, by the way. Actually, I love the stage show.
And they had like a couple videos. I know there was like one game on like Game Boy Color. They were definitely trying to make Doug like a franchise, and it's just, I don't think it really
doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah,
it didn't feel endearing.
And
the Disney version. The Nickelodeon show felt a lot more endearing to the audience. Like it was a much more relatable sense of storytelling too, because you got 2 stories per half hour, so you're able to kind of not cram everything in one, but the story pretty much got to the point. It got to the point within 12 minutes, and then you have a commercial break, and you have another story totally removed from the other, and it got to the point. You weren't kind of like resting on the drama of it all. You just it was just like, he feels this way. How does he deal with it? And you find a solution before the next commercial break. That's what a kid wanted back in the 90s.
Yeah. In terms of Doug franchising, though, I would absolutely dig like a Doug Telltale game. Like a Telltale point-and-click Doug. Like just going around.
That would be fun.
You're onto something. $1 billion idea.
I like that. Very much a guy who writes in his journal. That's the kind of game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I like that. That's cool.
The journal will be like the whole entire status of all the choices you made throughout the game.
Like your inventory and like your quest log. Yeah. You can call them quests in those games, but yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man, my imagination's running wild now for a Doug point and click.
Would have been a good kids game.
Yeah.
We got next Shellshock.
Well, as far as other shows in general, for me, I absolutely loved a lot of the Disney stuff from the late 80s to the 90s. Like I watched, there was a show called Disney's Adventures of the Gummy Bears.
Yes.
Which a lot of people unfortunately don't remember that show, but a lot of people do, and it's really good. And the thing is that the main one of the characters, there was a character, I think it was Tummy Bear. I'm not sure what's his name, but his voice actor is the same as the original voice of Garfield, Lorenzo Music.
Yes, Lorenzo Music. I love Lorenzo Music.
Yes. Which I'm going to actually add this to a different connection where obviously we had Garfield and Friends, which is another great show.
I love that show.
And one other show I want to bring up was a cartoon called The Real Ghostbusters, which was the Ghostbusters cartoon from the 80s to the 90s. Because the reason why I put that connection is because Lorenzo Music was also Peter Venkman in the cartoon for the first 2 seasons before being replaced by Dave Coulier from Full House.
That's right.
Which, funny enough, what I remember about that cartoon was the fact that it actually had about 65 episodes for the first 2 seasons, and that they just kept adding more, and they just renamed it to Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters. But the other thing about it is that there was actually another cartoon called Ghostbusters, which came out around the same time as the movie Ghostbusters, and it's not related to it whatsoever.
Made by Filmation.
Yep.
Nope. Filmation.
Yeah, Filmation. Nobody liked it. It was not successful. It did not do that well, even though I think it had 2 seasons. But for whatever reason, it did not do well. And that's why they called this one The Real Ghostbusters, because these were the Ghostbusters people wanted.
Let's go, Ghostbusters!
Wasn't Ghostbusters it was like a live action show in the 70s?
It was in the 70s, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just find it really funny that they named the cartoon The Real Ghostbusters, even though they were the second franchise named Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, we're the real ones. It's like, no, no, you're not. But okay. I guess you're the popular Ghostbusters, but
yeah. 1 second, real quick. I just need to do something.
All right.
But yeah. As far as other shows go, I will say that for other cartoons, I had a lot of my earliest memories. What I remember early on was I remember some of the more obscure cartoons from the late 80s. I mentioned a couple of the Saban stuff, but I also remember there was this one cartoon on Nickelodeon. It was a short, a bumper, where they would sometimes have stuff in between commercials and when the next show was about to start.
Bumpers.
So there was this one that stood out. you had this one guy. He was living by himself. It was all like yellowish,
I know what
and
you're talking about, yes.
and he had this egg, and then he was just tapping it, and you hear like, "Hey, who is this? Now stop that!" He just kept tapping the egg, and then he was so mischievous to the point where he just kept wailing on this egg, just destroying it. Boom, destroying it. No. And then all of a sudden, the same thing happened to his house. The same exact scenario, same exact voice, same exact dialogue. His house got destroyed like if it was an egg, and he actually looked like an egg too.
I remember this.
And for a cartoon of that magnitude, it was like 2-3 minutes long or so, and it was dark. It was very dark. You know what's sad?
There are a lot of like dark artsy fartsy kind of stuff like in between those Nickelodeon shows that they just licensed from like random European animators.
There's a reason for that.
Those
like
bumpers were a little interesting.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that.
There was one. The Cat Came Back was another one. Or it's just a song about a guy that just like kept trying to get rid of a cat in his house and just kept trying to kill it. And it's just like it was just really weird. It almost dropped an F-bomb.
It's almost like the episode of Krusty Gets Canceled where he no longer has Itchy and Scratchy and they have to put on like Worker and whatever from like Eastern Europe, and he's just like, what was that?
Yeah, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
yeah. They would air that like in between shows and like on Pinwheel and stuff, which was like Nickelodeon's first
that's
show.
what it was called.
Oh yeah, Pinwheel.
I forgot.
Yeah.
I was like, Nickelodeon
I was
called.
too young to remember Pinwheel, but yeah, I was more Eureka's Castle. Kind of
Oh my God, Eureka's Castle! I used to love that show.
Yeah, my wife loved that show.
Funny enough, there's a character on that show called Magellan, who was a big dragon. The person who was like the puppeteer for that character Magellan, he would become the bear from Bear in the Big Blue House.
Yeah, he
was same person, same guy.
To the Jim Henson Company.
Yes, and in the third Ninja Turtles movie, which not a good movie, he was Raphael in that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So
cool.
So
Noel McNeil is the guy's name.
Yeah, Noel McNeil. He went from being a dragon to being a Ninja Turtle in one of the movies
to a bear.
To a bear. Now that's a life right there. That is a good
bear.
life.
The best bear is a
Three
Hito
different
bear.
personas.
So Hito, a dragon that turns into a turtle that turns into a bear. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. You have to love it. Seriously, absolutely good stuff right there. See, the other thing is, I want to say that all my early memories were just so good in regards to cartoons that I have even more memories later on. But we're gonna talk about like more not games, shows. So sorry. Cartoons.
Games, you were right.
Well, they did. Well, Saturday morning cartoons did have video games. Yes, they did. And
Excuse me, princess. Sorry, I've been holding that in for like 40 minutes.
Oh,
yes.
Fun. Just a quick aside. One of my ex-girlfriends, like, she was actually, as a kid, she was banned from playing Zelda games because so she was a really big fan of the Mario Super Show and Zelda cartoon, and apparently she would like mimic Link a lot and just act really rude like Link, and her mom just thought that's just what Zelda games were like. So it's just like, yeah, you're never playing any Zelda games because of how rude Link was in the cartoon.
Oof. That's all I gotta say. Oof.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in regards to the next thing is favorite shows. So let's go on with that. Yeah, because I went in for the first topic. So the next topic is favorite shows. So let's start with Hito. Your favorite cartoons growing up.
Okay. So mind you, most of my cartoons ended up leading me to anime, but to begin, if we're gonna go into favorite cartoons, like I said, Rugrats was definitely a fave of mine. Cartoon Network, I enjoyed Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls, Courage the Cowardly Dog, only because, again, my mom liked to show me the horror stuff when I was young. So I was introduced when I was like 5 to Freddy Krueger and Jason and Candyman And Jeepers Creepers. I was into a lot of horror, so when they finally came out with something that was for children, I wasn't necessarily shocked at what I saw when it came to Courage. It was like, oh look, CGI.
Oh my god.
Especially for like King Ramses, so it was just like, oh look, CGI. It's disturbing to look at, but yeah, great. As opposed to Nickelodeon, I enjoyed Rugrats. Hey Arnold. Like I said, growing up, I started to actually understand Hey Arnold a lot better. So it was like, okay, I like Hey Arnold, I like Rugrats, and then we have to blame 4Kids TV getting me into Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh. And then in Fox, my favorite anime of all time, Shaman King, because Foxbox happened, and we got Kirby's right back at you. We got Sonic. We got Sonic X, which
coincidentally enough, I'm recording this in my friend's room, and they actually have like a Shaman King like print like on their desk.
Exactly.
Like, I haven't thought about it in a long time. But
Shaman King is one of my favorites, and as I was saying earlier when I was making the opener, I'm using that as one of my like key things for the opening because that's my top anime, Shaman King. Since I've always been into supernatural things, and even to the point where I've actually studied paganism a lot, especially shamanism on that regard. I'm definitely into Shaman King a lot more than anything, and Shaman King is my all-time favorite. I wouldn't say cartoon anime, but when it comes to cartoons, Foxbox was kind of what I grew up on when it came down to it. But then when we also had 4Kids and when I was dealing with WB11, I also got into Jackie Chan Adventures and Shaolin Showdown. Shaolin Showdown.
One more thing! Your place is too big! I had to walk very, very far just to find the bathroom!
But
I love Uncle.
We love Uncle. But my biggest one was Shaolin Showdown because Omi messing up every single saying in the world. Dojo, get your ears in the game! And then Raimundo on the sidelines like, Omi, you gotta be doing that on purpose. You gotta be doing that on purpose.
Wow.
I just remember the one favorite line that Omi messed up completely, which was when Jack was like, well, I'm sitting on some juicy info. It involves Jermaine, and it's not good. Omi just pouncing at Jack like, I demand you to spill your internal organs, Jack Spicer. What kind of sick people are you?
Oh, shit.
And I'm just like, I think he meant spill your guts. So it's just like the word humor for Shaolin Showdown plus the action and the Shaolin Showdowns themselves, the Shengon Wu, which I was like praying one day that the Serpent's Tail was real and I could just use that to phase through every building and get to work on time or get to school on time.
Yep.
But biggest one that I have to say I enjoyed when I was younger, especially in the WB's perspective, Shaolin Showdown, and I hate the Disney version when they tried to remake it because Orb of Torpedo is not this. It doesn't roll off the tongue as Orb of Tornami, or the Monkey Spear now being the monkey.
Why did they change it? Is there a reason?
So I don't know. It was okay. So mind you, since they owned Shaolin Showdown, now there was no point in just like. Looking up, I think maybe the fact that some of the names may have been not Disney appropriate, maybe. Because they didn't want to think of, oh, look, a monkey staff sounds a little bit more dangerous than a monkey spear. I'm like, but you could poke things with a spear.
You can, like yes.
A spear sounds more painful than a staff.
So that was kind of like my whole thing where I was just like, huh. I don't know why they changed the names. I wish they didn't. I think they tried to remove the influence of any of the Eastern terms of use, I guess. Like, for example, Tornami is an Eastern term. Hanabi is another one, like Star of Hanabi. They tried to basically remove anything like Eastern influence. I think they just tried to add like a Western mix to it because now Disney owned it.
Weird a show named Shaolin Showdown has some Eastern references to it.
I mean, it was supposed to. I mean, it's literally based on martial arts and the Chinese martial arts as well.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like you can't really snuff that out in a Western version, and that's kind of where it lost its magic at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shaolin Showdown for WB, Nickelodeon. I was still into Rugrats, and the Wild Thornberries.
Yeah.
I never really watched Wild Thornberries.
It was good.
I saw
Yeah,
a
that
lot
show
of
was a
it.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the movie specifically made me cry twice because I had to deal
I
with.
never actually watched the movie, even though like I really liked the show. I don't know why. I probably was like my post Nickelodeon phase. Probably.
Watch the movie. Just
Yeah.
watch it. Watch the movie.
Yeah.
You will actually enjoy it.
I want to piggyback on Hito because I did watch a lot of Kids WB. I remember in 1995 when the Animaniacs were moving from Fox to the WB, wherever they were going to be broadcasting their syndicated channel. But I remember there was a spread in the opening August or July issue of Disney Adventures magazine that had all of the new shows that were coming out on Kids WB. It was Animaniacs making their return, then Pinky and the Brain was going to have their own show, the Bugs Bunny and what was it, the Bugs Bunny and Tweety show, or I'm sorry, Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries. My apologies.
Yeah.
And then they had Freakazoid. I was telling everybody before we went live that I had that theme song stuck in my head all day because I was trying to explain to my son, which is actually a pretty good segue for me now. I'm trying to explain to my 6-year-old son how watching cartoons at a certain time works, because now he can just watch it whenever he wants. He's just like, okay, I'm done with my homework, can I watch this? And I'm just like, yeah, sure. But I had to remind him, hey, by the way, you know, when I was a kid, it was Disney afternoon, and if I didn't get my homework done until 4:30, I missed Chippendale, I missed Tailspin, I missed Darkwing Duck, I had to watch Gargoyles. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was not this opportunity to kind of watch a la carte. So, you know, you try to get done with your homework as fast as you can, or if you were one of those gifted kids, I don't know who you are, but bless you, that were able to do your homework, get it done, and watch television at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, bless your heart. But yeah, Disney Afternoon and Kids WB were definitely like my time blocks to watch everything. But if we're speaking specifically Saturday morning cartoons, I remember after Freakazoid at 10:30 was Earthworm Jim from Universal Cartoon Studios. And
right.
I mean, I don't want to give too much to Earthworm Jim just because of, you know, the
creator, yeah.
But that show starred Dan Castellaneta as Earthworm Jim, and that was pretty cool to have when at the time that we had it. So that block every Saturday was like definitely set for me. I loved that having something other than Disney taking control of a lot of like kids stuff for me was great, because I was able to kind of branch out and get a lot more variety. I mean, Cartoon Network, Hanna-Barbera sold over all of their stuff to Time Warner. So Cartoon Network was the place that we could watch all of the Hanna-Barbera stuff, like anything from Powerpuff Girls, Johnny Bravo, that were all picked up. And actually somebody in chat had mentioned it before, the cartoons, which actually started as What a Cartoon with an exclamation point, which was a showcase for animators to pilot their series and hopefully get picked up by Cartoon Network based on viewers, based on retention. So that's how we got Dexter's Lab. That's how we got Johnny Bravo. That's how we got Powerpuff Girls. But there were episodes and pilots of shows that not a lot of people have heard of since then, like Oh Rats or Yoink of the Yukon.
I remember those.
Like, those were like the ways for people to get their foot in the animation door during the Renaissance.
Hell,
and
Billy and Mandy started off as Grim and Evil, and we never got any of that reference too.
Right. And so like for me, like those personal favorites stemmed from a lot of those 65 episode flat, make them, syndicate them, but definitely Animaniacs is the number one for me. That show completely changed how I viewed Hollywood humor at a young age. I always knew I wanted to be a performer. I'm a SAG-AFTRA member now, and I've done years of theater. But I haven't gotten into Actors Equity quite yet. But I digress. So Animaniacs was a huge influence on me in that sense. Pinky and the Brains followed suit. But then Darkwing Duck. Darkwing Duck was one of those shows where he's like the hero who is the braggadocio kind of wants to be famous for being a superhero, and I loved that angle. Batman the Animated Series was more of a weekday show. They didn't really save it for the weekend, but I do want to give credit to how important that TV series was for narrative, because I feel like Batman the Animated Series led us to Avatar the Last Airbender. Now, I wasn't a kid when Avatar the Last Airbender came out, but I watched it. When did it come out? 2005, so I was 20. I watched it then, and by God, like how far we've come in children's narrative. And it was around 2006, 2007 that the big three stopped all those Saturday morning cartoons from airing. So we had nothing but Disney Channel, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, and then it was about 2 or 3 years until streaming really took over. And you know, you get a show as monumental as Avatar, and you can just kind of see this culmination of all of these favorites that we had, and breaking it down in such a way that now you're able to get rid of selling toys just by putting out a cartoon and giving children, you know, a voice for storytelling was super important. And I really appreciated that as an adult, and being like, yes, this is why we had the Renaissance. This is how far we've come. And if I could drop one more show, I just had it. Sorry. It was on. Oh God, it'll come to me. But anyway, so I don't want to burst anyone's ear, but just seeing how Transformers. Sorry. So shows like Transformers, which were originally intended just to sell toys from Hasbro, became something entirely different. It became a soap opera for kids in the 80s. I mean, we had characters that died in that movie, you know what I mean? So there were liberties taken on the animator's part and the storyteller's part that really did, the word I used before, it really did help to make an enduring connection to these shows. And when you got older, you got the humor, and you got the references, and you got the jokes. So somewhere in the back of these writers' minds, they knew that these kids were going to grow up, and they would get these jokes. And it might not be as appropriate now, then as, you know, what we are making now, you know, when we have everything happening after the pandemic. But from what we can see back then, we glance back to focus forward. And that is the whole reason we've got this great dichotomy of amazing animated shows that we were able to watch, wrapped in a bed sheet, eating sugary cereal, staring this close at our CRTs.
Yep.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, seriously, though.
I didn't really, like, just growing up with stuff like Kids WB and Cartoon Network, I actually didn't. For whatever reason, our cable company barely was able to reach, like, 40 channels. So my options were very, very limited. I mean, obviously we have the local channels, like, you know, the Fox and ABC and NBC and CBS. I didn't have a local WB affiliate until, I want to say, like, 2000. Like, I didn't have, like, when we moved to New York, we didn't have Cartoon Network on our cable package until then either. So, like, when I was growing up, it was just, those local channels, like, you know, the weekday afternoons and Saturday mornings, and Nickelodeon were pretty much my only options for, like, the stuff I wanted to watch. I mean, only other options for, like, kid-friendly stuff was, you know, the Family Channel, and nobody liked the Family Channel.
Or PBS.
Or PBS. I mean, I didn't really watch too much stuff on PBS. I liked that
Madeline special on the Family Channel.
like Family Channel was basically wherever, like, shows that Nickelodeon Cartoon Network could not fit into their schedules. So that's where it went.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much, yeah. And so I was just a big Nickelodeon kid growing up. So all those cartoons that aired on there, I obviously talked about Doug and how influential that was. Those first few seasons of Rugrats before they like took that hiatus is still some of the best cartoons ever made. Like one of the most like well written cartoons. It's one of those shows where I just will rewatch and discover a new joke. Not even just like raunchy adult humor, but just like adult humor, like jokes that only adults would understand. Why this certain situation or conversation is funny.
Exactly.
Like there was one episode. There was one episode where Stu was showing off his old home movies, and Grandpa Boris was dialing the phone. It's like, "Hello, Dr. Kevorkian." It's just like, I did not know that was a joke at all. And it's just like realizing who he was calling now is like, whoa, okay, that's a deep. I don't know if it's not really a deep cut, but it's just like that is a hell of a joke to just fly over the kids' heads.
Oh no! Like another one was just like I didn't realize how much of an adult I would be in the future. Where it's like, dude, why are you making chocolate pudding at 4 a.m? Because I've lost control of
my life, yeah. Because he did, yeah.
You know?
And then right at the end, like he gives the chocolate pudding to Angelica, and he's like, "Oh, that's okay, Uncle Stu. I don't want it anymore." And then that scream, that iconic scream that Stu Pickles has, just sells the whole thing. It sells it.
Yeah. There was another episode too. It was like I think it was like Tommy and Chucky imagining they were adults, and like they were going to work, and
that one.
They were going to work. It's like, what do we do for work? Oh, we do what my dad does. Push paper, and it's just like literally them just pushing papers around like with a giant broom. It's like I didn't know like what a paper pusher was as a kid, but now I do. It's just like, wow, that's really freaking.
If I could interject, actually, I wanted to mention The Simpsons, even though that is a primetime show. Bart mentioning to Principal Skinner in the Bart's Comet episode that there's a 4:30 in the morning now is such a kid observation. You know, you don't think about it because it's not quantifiable. Kids did not wake up at 4:30 in the morning. Like that time construct did not exist.
Yeah,
to be fair, so did the other one where he did.
To me, the day began at 7 in the morning. Like at 6, I was just like, "Wow, this is really early." This one, like if I was like watching anything on there, it would be like freaking Cable in the Classroom.
That was the Mr. Men and Little Miss time to wake up.
Yep.
Like, and then finally, just the one line that makes me cry is like, "Tommy, I don't want to be a Big People's anymore." I'm like, "Yep, there we go." That's feeling. There we go.
They knew.
Yeah, but in terms of my favorite of the Nicktoons would definitely be Hey Arnold. I feel like out of every one of those, Hey Arnold was something special. I knew it was something special back then, and I didn't really like realize what exactly it was, but it's just the perfect mesh of just writing, childhood, music, and just I just loved all the characters were just so complex.
Kurt, did you grow up in an urban setting?
I did not. I was a suburban kid, but it's like for whatever reason I just this was the first show where I felt like, oh, these characters are actually more than just like one-dimensional notes. Like, you know, with Rugrats, it's just like, oh yeah, Chucky's the scared one, Angelica's the bully, and
you got the
Phil and Lil are the gross ones. But it's just like there's so many complex layers with like, especially with Helga in particular. There were so many things going on with her and her life and just her parents and things like that.
The only reason I brought that up is because like 3 out of the 4 of us grew up in an urban setting, so we see a show like Hey Arnold, and that kind of neighborhood camaraderie completely makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had that neighborhood camaraderie, but it wasn't in like a big city kind of setting. It was just like we would always be in our little neighborhoods, but it's like I did like have that kind of relationship with the other kids around the block and stuff. But it was just fascinating seeing all these characters just go through so many emotions from episode to episode, and sometimes like see them like sometimes carry over too.
And it had the Doug narrative format too. It had 2 stories per episode, which made it get right to the point. It was like exactly. You figured it out, and you're on your way.
And man, that I don't know if you guys watched the Hey Arnold Jungle movie that came out. Like
I did.
So that made me. Not because it wasn't bad. It was just like there were so many tiny loose ends that were tied up. That's just like, oh, they made reference to this. This is what this character's up to now. This is what this character is doing now. And it's just like, there's just so many things that it's just like, I was just wondering what happened to certain characters and what would eventually come out of like these characters' relationships. And it's just like, it just satisfied me so much. It was, I definitely got misty-eyed near the end of that. Oh yeah, Dragon Flame was mentioning the Hey Arnold Christmas special in particular. That always makes me cry too.
Oh yeah,
that one was super emotional. It's just a lot of these shows were just brought out so many emotions other than laughter. Like, you know, because I wasn't really into a lot of those serious. like narrative driven cartoons as a kid, like Batman or like any of those action shows. I was just into stuff that made me laugh, but like I don't know, it was sometimes you don't need to laugh. Sometimes you just need to kind of like, chill out. And that's a thing that I feel like there's not really, not to say that there aren't great cartoons today, but I feel like there's fewer and fewer cartoons today that like have that ability to just like kind of take a chill pill, just let the music just kind of paint the scene, or just like let just like some dialogue work itself out without everyone having to, spout out a quippy joke or shout or whatever. And it's just like, that's like, I don't really know. There's not really too many cartoons that like do that, where they can just let the emotion, let the just scene kind of set itself. And it's just, I feel like a lot of that had to do with the limitations of animators, honestly, because they couldn't like, pump out these action shows as like fast as, I don't want to say as fast as they can now, but it's just a lot of these shows are just like, yeah, they had to be dialogue driven so they can save on the animation.
I mean, we are all subjected to this as well, but there is an oversaturation of entertainment out there now, just because we have so many different outlets. So I think it's more. I think it's more of a problem to find something of good quality. But then again, we have approached the point in our collective entertainment. We're on the receiving end of entertainment. We are all in our own realities. We're not. It's not on. It's not on a selected channel anymore. It's in a streaming service, but it's buried in a streaming service.
Exactly.
It could be on YouTube. It could be on for TikTok even, but they're 15 seconds long. So you're kind of on the right path there. But I think that the oversaturation of it all has dried up the well of finding things that everybody can find able to connect with. One of the few shows as a parent, I don't know, Kurt, if you're a parent or not.
No.
Okay, I think I'm
more of a surrogate uncle.
Okay, that's fine. I'll take it.
Uncle, but I'm just a surrogate uncle to a lot.
When you come to the point where you want to like watch a show with your family or whatever, my family has chosen this show called Bluey from Australia.
Oh yeah. My roomie's kids really like Bluey.
Yeah, and after watching that now as a grown-up, having gone through the ringer of watching everything from 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, early 2000s, I should say, early to mid-2000s of cartoons, as we specify them as cartoons, because we know animation is a whole different like ball game there. But when you get into a show like Bluey, you have the parents have their dialogue, and some of it may flow over the kids' heads, but the kids have heard their parents say, "I'm watching you," from one parent to the other, but there's learning through play, and the way that they script their show is very reminiscent of feeling like you're watching a Saturday morning cartoon, because it gets to the point, they have a little adventure, and it's all about using your imagination. And these characters, again, become very endearing characters, and you root for them. And I think that the fact that you root for these characters, even in the funny whimsy of Animaniacs, you don't want to get trapped back in the tower. You don't. Yeah. You want the zaniness to go, so you're rooting for them. Doug just wants to get through his day. You're rooting for him. So now you have a show that has 4.5 to 5 minute episodes, of Bluey, but still you're getting what you need out of it. You're getting those moments to just kind of zone out, and you're getting those moments where, oh yes, I do need to hear once in a while as a parent that I'm doing great. And I need to hear it from a cartoon dog. You know what I mean? Like Scooby-Doo is going to tell me, like a pup named Scooby-Doo is going to tell me, yep, I was always hungry as a kid. Me and Shaggy are going to make these giant sandwiches. But now as a grown-up, I just need to hear that I'm doing okay.
That's good.
I guess that kind of segues into our last question, Shellshock. I don't know if you want to do the liberties of...
Well, the thing is that like... I never actually talked about like all my favorite shows growing up.
Let's do it.
Like we still have a lot more too. Like we've just been bouncing off. Like, so, like, we were just going from one thing to another. But yeah, so in regards to favorite shows, growing up, yeah, I watched a lot of Ninja Turtles. Obviously, that's my favorite growing up, the '87 series. But I also did watch the 2003 and the 2012 series. I did not watch Rise. I haven't watched it yet. I still gotta watch it. But the original '87 cartoon was basically syndicated until the fourth season, where they actually went to CBS from season 4 all the way up to season 10. Like seasons 8, 9, and 10, they decided to make the show a lot more serious so that it would be in line with the X-Men cartoon and the Batman the animated series. Like they had the Red Sky, they had a different theme song. They never talk about pizza anymore, and Michelangelo rarely ever said cowabunga anymore, and they decided to make it more darker. Uncle Phil was not voicing Shredder anymore.
Oh yeah, didn't they? Yeah, they like killed him off. So.
I love Uncle Phil.
He left the show actually.
I got the whole
Okay.
I got the whole series in that Turtle Van DVD box set.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So my son and I started watching first and second season.
Isn't it kind of weird that like for whatever reason that original show is not on any streaming service?
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna tell you the reason. Lionsgate, even though Viacom owns the rights to Ninja Turtles, Lionsgate somehow has the rights to the original show, and
they have distribution rights.
The distribution rights, but and they're choosing not to distribute it. Although they could have at least let Viacom put it on Paramount Plus or something. That'd be a good way to put them on there. And the original theme song is owned by the composer. I believe it was Chuck Lorre is his name. He owns the theme song, which is why in the Cowabunga collection they could not actually use the original one. They actually had to use a cover.
Correct.
So they actually replaced it with a cover. The same thing for the arcade 1-up release of the original Ninja Turtles arcade game. So they had
Prime, I love that you know your stuff. It's so refreshing.
I love Ninja Turtles. Of course I know my stuff.
Named ShellshockPrime for a reason.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah, that's still crazy because like on like their social media, like on the Facebook page for Ninja Turtles, they like make reference to like that old show all the time. They always like. And they always make merch of that old show. So I always wondered, it's just like, I mean, they obviously have some kind of rights to the images of them.
They do.
It's just like, it's just wild that it's just for whatever reason they just can't put out the show. Or just won't pony up the money to put up the show.
Even in the 2012 series, where they had 2 crossovers with the Ninja Turtles with the original voices and everything, except for Shredder's voice, who since James Avery passed away, like when they did the second crossover, so they had Kevin Michael Richardson, who already voiced Shredder in the 2012 series, voice match the original Shredder voice, and he did a good job.
He did great.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like Kevin Michael Richardson.
Yeah, but then what happened is that because I remember the 2003 series, they had a crossover called Turtles Forever with the '80s Turtles. Oh my god,
I love that.
I actually was not happy with the way they treated the '80s Turtles. Like they pretty much like of course they were silly and everything, but I feel like
they weren't dumb.
But they weren't dumb. Like they made them.
I get that. That was just kind of a thing of the era.
And
it's just like, things that are earnest and fun, that's stupid.
Also,
it's not serious.
And also, like,
but I did enjoy it.
It actually came out of spite because one of the original creators of Ninja Turtles hates the '87 series so much because when he made the comics, and the reason he hated it is because even though it made him a lot of money, he felt like he sold out.
Yeah. Who was it, Eastman or Laird?
It was Laird.
To be fair, what those original comics were compared to what the '87 series was, it's just like I can kind of understand like where it's coming from because it's just, but at the same time, it's just like, hey, that's capitalism for you.
Yeah, but at the same time, you also don't want to alienate like people who actually grew up with the show and actually loved that show and try to say, our show's better than yours. It should not have to be like that. Although,
I totally get that.
Although the comics,
but again, I feel like that was just a regular thing for that era.
Although when they met the comic counterparts, they basically shitted on both teams because it's like because we're the originals, like we're gritty, we're dark, and all that. That's pretty much what they did. But
and then the last Ronin came along and just shot it.
I gotta read the last Ronin, to be honest. I have to read the last Ronin at some point. But,
it was great. Oh, you're gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, but. As for going back to Saturday morning cartoons, because this is the topic we have to talk about. As much as Ninja Turtles, because it is part of it, there's still way more than that. Like I grew up with, I too grew up with Bobby's World. It's funny how Howie Mandel went from Bobby's World to Deal or No Deal, and he has a new game show right now. I think it's called Bullshit or something on Netflix.
That's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's just funny how he went from comedy, stand-up comedy, to a cartoon, to 2 game shows. Yeah.
It's a hell of a career path.
Yeah. There used to be Saturday morning cartoon. What happened?
Oh, I was just wondering, wasn't he a judge on America's Got Talent?
Yes.
Yep.
He was.
He also was the voice of a bear called In Toonland that was released for a PC CD-ROM. Sorry.
Really? Okay. What I also remember is that growing up, there were cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons, based on rated R movies. Like there was a Rambo cartoon, there was a RoboCop cartoon, 2 of them, and there were plenty of others. I'm surprised they didn't make one for Aliens or Predator. You'd think that they would have actually made those. Oh my God, Eek the Cat! I remember Eek the Cat. I used to love that show. Eek the Cat was so good. The Tick was a good show too.
The Tick.
Yeah, the Tick.
I have a question.
I remember Eek the Cat. I just don't remember. Like, I don't have any memories of it. Like, I feel like I have to have watched it because I saw commercials for it all the time. But I don't know. Those probably like. Yeah, I was probably flipping through like between like Fox Kids and Nickelodeon on Saturdays.
Yeah, what happened?
Or just playing video games. But
Speaking of Nickelodeon, I just remember I just had a very faint memory come to my brain right now.
Oh, really?
Does anyone remember the Nickelodeon short that they used to have in the 90s called The Offbeats?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I remember the Offbeats. Yes. Whoa.
So, mind you, this is why I've been quiet, because I was like, wait a minute, what is that show?
Yeah.
We've been talking about Nickelodeon a lot.
Oh, so he had to find it.
I was like, and then I finally found it. I found a playlist of all the episodes, by the way.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, snap. Okay.
Because it was part of Kablam for at least the first 2 seasons.
So it was first, they were first what they called Snick Snacks. So like in the late 90s, they had like interstitials in between the Snick blocks. So they had like stuff like they were originally called the Misfits.
They were.
Yep.
Yeah, they were called the Misfits for a few weeks. Then I think
we can't say the Misfits. So we have to change it to the
trouble. So it's like the Offbeats, sure.
I think
so those are like interstitials on there. Then it was on Kablam, and I don't think they had their own series. I know they had like a Valentine's special.
They did.
Yeah, they had a Valentine's special, but they didn't have their own series. They just had their own little like. They just had like about, I think, from what I'm looking at, 12 episodes, and they were just literally like shorts. They were like 5-minute blocks in between.
Yeah.
The only thing I remember is that I think the reason why they couldn't use the name The Misfits is because there was actually a band called The Misfits.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What I also remember is, so we had the Offbeats, but there were 2 spinoffs of Kablam. There was Action League Now, and ABC Family, for whatever reason, got the show, Angela Anaconda.
Right. They did get that.
I'm going to be very real. I never liked Angela Anaconda.
Which got me a little bit upset.
That's a common opinion.
Yeah, because I was even more upset that Angela Anaconda actually made some sort of premiere in the Digimon movie, which was really annoying.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
They did.
Yes.
So
I haven't seen the
beginning,
Digimon movie, so I wouldn't know.
In the beginning of the movie, when they were about to like start the movie, because I saw it in the theaters, and then I also have the video cassette. In the beginning, right before they start the whole movie, Angela Anaconda is just basically trying to sit in for the Digimon movie, and the popular girls decided to like cut in front, and it was just this whole entire fever dream of Angela just thinking about, if I was a Digimon, I'm gonna just Digivolve and have Taya's hair. I'm like, this is really weird. Please stop.
Oh my god.
I'm begging you to stop. Like, who thought this was a good idea?
I have no idea at all.
They need to cross-promote it somehow. And the most laughable part of that short is just the audacity of Fox to assume that there were that many Digimon, like hyped up Digimon fans.
Yeah.
That, like, in terms of like a school, just like, especially like the popular kids coming to go watch Digimon, like it's a big event, like a Marvel movie. It's like, okay, come on. I mean, Digimon's popular, but you're not Pokemon.
Yeah, they want, like, Fox really wanted something so bad to compete with Pokemon.
No, it wasn't Fox, and I'm gonna tell. Ooh, you want to go into this Digimon debate? Hold on, I got you here because I
mean, I love Digimon. I honestly think Digimon is a better show than Pokemon.
That's not what I mean.
Oh,
Fox didn't make Digimon. Bandai did.
They did.
They got it off of their series of Tamagotchi.
Yeah. I mean, I think Fox was just trying to promote it as a Digimon competitor. Like, they really wanted to make it their Digimon.
Yeah.
You mean as a Pokemon?
Still,
as
yeah.
a franchise.
Yeah. They just wanted to...
Day, like, Digimon was... Like, I keep telling you, technically Digimon came out before Pokemon because of Tamagotchis, and then their little special of the Digimon keychains, those technically came out before Pokemon. So I had to keep reminding people about this, like, Digimon.
Yeah, because I was totally on Team Digimon back in the Poke Digi Wars of 2000.
Yeah, I loved both.
Before Flame Wars.
I did forget to mention, since we are kind of rolling back on video game stuff, I forgot to mention the 1994 Mega Man animated series.
Yes.
Yep.
I watched that too.
That I watched religiously every day at 2:30 p.m.
The theme song. The theme song easily. Mega Man.
I saw.
Dopamine just went like that.
Yeah.
I actually, you know what? Wait, hold on. Wait, time everybody. I have the show soundtrack. I found it in Tower Records when I was in high school of the Mega Man TV animated series. And it has Junior Mafia on it. It's got so much stuff on it.
If you still have it...
When I find it, I will send you a picture and I'll tell you what tracks are on. You can look it up on the internet, but like I will show you that I have it, that I physically own it.
Yes.
Gotta find that.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's a show. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
All right. But other shows in general that I want to bring up right now, I will say So USA Network used to air cartoons. They had the Cartoon Express. But back in the mid-90s, they decided to change directions and make it more action-based, mostly focusing on action shows. And they actually had shows based on video games. One of the most famous ones they had was Street Fighter, the animated series.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like,
oh boy,
it's one of those cartoons where it's so bad it's good. But
ribbon.
I love it for how ridiculous it is. It has so many moments. Like, for example, Guile just randomly screaming Bison's name, or when, like, for example, there's a scene in an episode where DG is running. In the anime, it looks like he's shrinking, and then the next scene he's in his normal size. But my favorite, honestly, from that show was like the moment that like Bison was basically like about to have one of his guys, I think it was Vega, fighting Guile or something, and Vega defeats Guile, and then Bison was like, yes, and then he goes, oh, this is delicious. My God.
So, okay, wait. So Derek 2011 Brownie just brought up the Mortal Kombat cartoon.
Yep.
Okay, so I rented from Blockbuster one night this video of the lead up to that cartoon, where they had these two very early, very poorly made CG fights of Sub-Zero and Scorpion, and I think the other was Raiden and forgive me, I forget. But yes, that was not the way you introduce a series.
Yeah. Was that
But yes, I
related
do remember
to the
that Mortal
cartoon
Kombat
series,
cartoon.
or was it its own thing?
What, the Mortal Kombat thing? Or
The one with the CG fights with the mocap.
I have
fights.
a feeling it was just an introduction to like the realm of Mortal Kombat, pun intended. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah.
But I think it led into the games, and then the movie was coming out, and the cartoon was there. You know, I felt like it was like one's intro to the story they had with those first 3 games. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. I remember renting it and being like, I rented poorly.
Yeah, so that Street Fighter cartoon, Mortal Kombat one, the Mario cartoon. So I actually used to run this YouTube channel called Be Up You, where like it was initially made to kind of mock those Control-Alt-Delete, like the webcomic Control-Alt-Delete, like the animated series. That was back when YouTube allowed like public annotations. If you gave people a link, anyone can add an annotation to it. So we would just use that to like mock those cartoons, and I eventually did it with the Mario cartoons and the Street Fighter cartoons, and even like the channel's kind of gone on without me. Shout out to the Anoverse. Just search Anoverse on YouTube. You can find them there.
Okay.
Some of that early stuff is just like, that's early 4chan humor. So lots of
shout outs to Newgrounds.
Nice words.
Basically 4chan before 4chan became what it is.
4chan, something awful stuff. So a lot of not nice
something
words.
awful. I remember that.
But,
Yeah.
But so I have a lot of like. So I have nostalgia for that, but in a different way, because I never watched the Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat cartoons growing up, or Captain N. But like, I was reintroduced to those shows via like, uploading those and just annotating them with gags with all those people. So
I want to tack on to something like that. That's actually very interesting, and I never really considered that before. Do you remember those Sprite cartoons that used to be made on Newgrounds, like Rise of the Mushroom Kingdom?
I remember
Mario,
those.
Something Z or whatever it was by Alvin Earthworm. Those were cartoons, Sprite cartoons made because what we got as kids was not what we needed. You know what I mean? Like when you watch like Mario, what was it called? Mario something Z, whatever they call it.
Mario
Z.
Yeah, when you watch something like that, you're like, yes, this is a crossover. This is something that we desired as fans from the old Sat AM Sonic or the, you know what I mean? Like, these guys knew what they were drawing upon. They were like, that didn't work, but we were so caught up because we were naive children. But now that we know better, we're able to present exactly what we craved. And so in turn, looking back on a double-sided nostalgia, one for early and adult nostalgia and one for a childhood nostalgia, you're able to find this pull between the two where you kind of warp your brain into saying, oh yes, Sat AM Sonic was awesome, but then you're like, well, not as awesome as what could have been. And the could have beens were made by those sprite animators. I mean, look at the impact.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with with Turtles Forever, is just like that attitude of just like, hey, we're growing up now. It's just all this like whimsical stuff is stupid and we want edgy action.
Yeah.
Now, and it's just like, I feel like that like fed into a lot of people's needs as well on Newgrounds.
It really did.
Yeah.
Anyway,
did you have any other favorites, Shellshock?
I do. But I'll give you one more. Let's see. If I had to pull one more favorite, I'm probably gonna have to go with this one show that was on Kids WB from 2000 to 2004, and it's DC Comics. And that's Static Shock.
Yes!
Yeah. Oh,
I knew you were going to bring that up.
Now, Static Shock actually had some really good episodes. They had crossovers with like other DC heroes like Batman, Green Lantern, and all that. Even they had the whole Justice League as well. And they even had an episode where Static goes to the future and meets Batman Beyond, which is another good show, by the way.
I love Batman Beyond.
Now here's the other thing. They actually had some serious episodes. Like, for example, they had an episode that involved a gun, where there was a student who was being bullied so bad to the point where he decided to bring a gun to school to shoot that bully in retaliation.
Which technically goes into what we're going through in the common days now. So
exactly.
you could say Static Shock was ahead of its time.
Yeah, and then like towards the end of the episode, like they had like a PSA about guns. Like Static just came in, like you would see Static in the air just come in and talk about it, explaining, because I feel like they tackled that topic very well. But there was another topic they talked about. To me, I felt was even. Don't get me wrong. As much as the gun topic episode was really good, I felt they did a good job with this one, where they had so the best friend is, I think, Richie, who would become Gear.
Mm-hmm. And I know which one you're talking
about. I know which episode you're going into.
So Static would always bring Richie over to his place, but he's never been to Richie's place before, and once Richie decided, you know what, I'm gonna do that, you would see why. His father is a racist. So they tackle the whole racial thing, and then the moment that that Virgil, who is also Static, overhears a conversation about like from Richie's father about like because Virgil's black, so, and Richie's white, so when he overheard a conversation that actually led to being racist, he's like, I gotta go. And then Richie was so mad at his father. He was like, I'm getting tired of your stupid racism. I hate you. And then just went back to his room. Towards the end of the episode, it got to a point where like the racism got to the point where it's ruining his relationship with his son. So he decided to like, so, and I don't remember the rest of the episode. I think he was missing, and then with the help of Static, Static would have his dad, and he would have Richie's dad like come in, and he was like, put aside whatever racism you have, and you got to help your son. And then that was pretty much what it was. And then in the end, like they got along, which I thought they did it well. But it was very rare at the time for them to teach racism to kids in a kids cartoon like that, because usually. Yes, there were cartoons where they would teach morals and all that stuff. And I actually have...
It was just very blanket statements, just like prejudice is bad.
Exactly.
Now the plot is solved, and prejudice is solved forever in this world.
There was one more episode of Static Shock that I remember, and this was about poverty and the homeless.
Yes.
Which was the episode with Permafrost, the Bang Baby that had the ice abilities, and it was more like... She wasn't evil or anything like that, where she wasn't like vindictive like most of the other villains can be in Static Shock.
No.
It was more like triggered by so much PTSD that you didn't see her as like a person because she was homeless, but they really, technically speaking, basically they humanized the fact that, hey, she's homeless. She's not homeless because she's a bad person. She's not homeless because she did this. It's more on the fact that she suffered through her childhood, abusive dad, sick mother, and then ran away from the childcare system. And then she was given these powers, and now people see her as, oh, she's that homeless person that's freezing and killing people and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Which was not true. Static humanized with her and actually sympathized with her because he knew what it felt like to not have his mother around anymore, just like she did. And it was a very compassionate episode, and I actually honestly felt some type of way about the episode.
Oh yeah.
Emotionally, not in a bad way. I know when I usually say I felt some type of way, it's usually a negative, but it's not, I assure you.
Yep.
No, I
get it.
The episode was beautifully done. I think season 1 Static Shock definitely did open up a lot of eyes, and I did enjoy the show as well.
Yep.
I loved watching Static Shock. I mean,
that was like one of the first shows when we finally got a WB affiliate that I was like instantly hooked on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about, I mean, I guess I was 15, 16 at the time. So it was when, you're coming out of whatever bubble you're living in, you know what I'm saying? And that kind of a show really did help to open up that, it's not just it's not the way that it was taught in the 90s. You have to really get a scope of what is really happening everywhere, and that show was a really great introduction for a lot of people who just didn't really see the forest through the trees on that, and to somebody like me, I was like, yeah, this is amazing. I love watching this show just because there is just pockets of things that I never realized before. And bless the internet, it was there so I can go and research this stuff. And that was really important to my awareness and becoming an ally later on in my life. And it's definitely one of the most important shows that we have probably seen up to that point in its narrative, in its presentation, and I really appreciated it.
Yeah. Like, but I never really got to ask Kurt, what are your favorite cartoons?
So I did mention, a lot of those Nicktoons were definitely top tier. Like I said, Rugrats, Hey Arnold were some of my favorites. But in terms of just other than like Nickelodeon stuff, I loved all that stuff that was on Fox Kids. I mean, like Power Rangers that's not a cartoon, but
but it might as well be
Rangers
sometimes.
Mine is one of my big ones. But a lot of the cartoons I enjoyed were mostly on Fox Kids. A lot of the later Disney morning stuff. Like, I wasn't too big into like DuckTales and Darkwing Duck growing up, but like when like One Saturday Morning started, I loved all those shows. I loved Recess. I loved Pepper Ann.
Mickey Mouse Works.
Yes.
House of Mouse, Mickey Mouse Works. Yeah, all that stuff was really good.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting, if I can just quickly interject, and I'll let you go. Yeah. But the fact that Mickey Mouse Works is not seen anywhere on Disney Plus, I'm trying to research why, and I still really haven't found a concrete answer. But for Disney to put out brand new Mickey Mouse shorts, like that's what they were. They were new Mickey Mouse shorts, and for us to see them nowhere now, very interesting. But sorry, I meant to just put that out there because those are really good. Those are some really good episodes.
Yeah, I almost forgot about Mickey Mouse Works for a little bit because like they did like kind of rehash those shorts into House of Mouse for a lot of those, and it's just I have more like House of Mouse was still really good. I don't think that's on Disney Plus either, is it?
No, it's not.
I don't think it is.
No idea why.
Not even the specials. No.
Yeah, there were a couple cartoons that, like, I don't think Pepper Ann was on Disney Plus for the longest time. I think it is now.
Now it is, yeah.
Like, I think initially.
Yeah, I think they added it last year.
Yep.
Yeah. The Weekenders isn't on Disney Plus.
It's like strange. The Weekenders. The Weekenders was a really great way of showing how a kid just wanted to make it to the weekend.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's like kids were like, "Oh, I'm tired of school this week. Can it be the weekend? You just want to do things." And that's what it pretty much was.
Yeah, it was a weekend show, and it was a lot of fun. In terms of something like a cartoon or just any piece of animation that I feel like there are two that come to mind in terms of what kind of influenced me into the person I am today.
No.
One is, I guess, technically two. Space Ghost Coast to Coast and Cartoon Planet.
Yes.
Space Ghost Coast to Coast in particular is one of my favorite cartoons of all time, and by association, Cartoon Planet. Cartoon Planet was what I was introduced to first before Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Oh yeah.
And it just kind of shaped my kind of absurdist sense of humor. Because there were a lot of jokes in that weren't just set up punchline jokes, just characters being friggin' weird with each other, and just weird songs, weird visuals, and just for whatever reason that just clicked with me when I first saw it at my grandma's house, because she was the one that had Cartoon Network. I didn't have it on my cable provider growing up.
Yeah.
Just that really shaped the sense of humor I'm really into. And the other piece of animation that I feel like influenced me in another way was Digimon.
Yes.
Because we talked a little bit about Digimon earlier, but Digimon is the first show that I watched where I actually started to care about the ongoing narrative. Because a lot of shows that I would watch, they were just they were just one-off little adventures, and the resolution would be reached at the end of the episode. But with Digimon, it was just I was already a fan of the virtual pets, and it's just ooh, a Digimon show? That's going to be cool. And I was not prepared to be fully invested in the story and the interpersonal relationships with the characters. It was I was watching a few episodes and just I watch another episode. It's just wait, they're still having that fight from 2 episodes ago? They haven't made up? What's going on? Why are they not friends? These characters should be getting along. They have to survive. And it's just like it had this just mystical quality to like what was going on and how everything unraveled. In a similar way, I would say to like I feel like it's a kid's version of Lost, honestly. Like I compare a lot of like those plot points and character relationships to Lost, and that was like I feel like that's like kind of why I liked Lost 2 a lot because of just a lot of those mysteries, a lot of those character developments and things like that. And yeah, Digimon was the first one to really introduce me to the fact of like, hey, these can actually like ongoing stories and interpersonal relationships can actually be really compelling. And yeah, I was like super into like every single Digimon, almost every single Digimon show that followed.
The Rock the Dragon version of Dragon Ball Z actually introduced me to that. Just the idea of just me being 11, thinking to myself, watching a animated program. Wait a minute. You mean I have to wait until next week to find out what happens? What are you talking about? Like that didn't register to me watching a cartoon because, of the, United States bubble of how cartoons were shown to us. And then when you were like, oh, this is animation. This is different. This is something that tugs a little bit more at your need to come back, That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And it's just especially like watching Digimon was around the time where I first got introduced to message boards as well, back in like 99, early 2000. Yeah. The VGF. So so a lot of those discussions, like I can actually discuss the show with other people, talk about like why we like these characters or why this character is a jerk, or why Joe and Mimi is the best couple to be shipped. Yeah, I got introduced to character shipping through Digimon as well.
That'll do it.
Yep. So the next topic will be very quick, more likely. Right. Which channel did you spend the most time on growing up? We'll start with you, Jeremy, for that one.
Oh, the channel that I spent the most time growing up. Oh man, it's a 3-way tie between Channel 11 here in the New York, New Jersey area. So Channel 11, Cartoon Network, and Nickelodeon. 3-way tie. Yeah. I think I bided my time between all three of those quite equally. Like I would watch, weekdays I would watch Disney Afternoon, then flip to Nickelodeon to watch their block, and then flip back to Cartoon Network for their block, and then watch one more show on Nickelodeon before calling it quits. Yeah. And then on Saturday mornings, it was definitely Kids WB all the way every Saturday. So I feel like I split my time pretty evenly between those like 4 kind of blocks growing up.
All right. Kurt?
Definitely Nickelodeon, because like I said earlier, we had a very limited cable lineup, so it's just Nickelodeon was the one I spent the most time with. MTV was probably a close second because, I feel like whenever I would watch MTV, it would be a cartoon anyway, so like Beavis and Butthead, Cartoon Sushi, Liquid Television.
Yes, I remember those.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of those just weird experimental animation stuff I really liked on MTV. But yeah, other than that, Fox Kids was my go-to for like Saturday morning stuff.
Yep.
Like I said, I flipped between different things every now and again, but Fox Kids was the one I like of the local network blocks I pledged allegiance to, basically.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like, because I will say, fun fact about MTV and animation, like there was a lot of animators who are well known that actually had their start there. Like for example, like I know that the creator of Ed and Eddie made some shorts, some random like one-off shorts for MTV.
That checks out.
Same thing for the creator of Courage the Cowardly Dog. He made some one-off shorts, like just random stuff that fit the mold of MTV. Which
that makes so much sense. Both of those creators, just like they would get their start on MTV.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So Hito.
That's a tough one because here's the thing. I didn't have cable halfway through my childhood, so when I was in 3rd grade, when I was younger, we had one of those burner cable boxes. You know, the ones that's about the black box, little dials on the top.
Yep.
Very digital thing. So
Yeah.
But I mostly grew up on video cassettes because the thing was, at the end of the day, I didn't really watch the television. More like my mother would record something and then hold it for ransom. Like, did you finish your homework? I'm like, yes. Can I have it, please? and she'd be like, yeah, sure, why not? But biggest one was indeed Cartoon Network for me, but with Nickelodeon and both Nickelodeon and WB being a close second, because Fox Box was also another thing that got me into the Saturday morning cartoons specifically. Again, Shaman King, favorite show to watch, but everything was watched on my Saturday morning cartoons would essentially just be like between Fox Box and WB, since I ran out of time for Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon in third grade. So I grew up mostly on my cartoons and understanding them around second grade, and my most was WB and Fox.
Yeah. All right.
But if I had my cable box, I swear to God, Cartoon Network would be on top. Toonami was a thing.
Yes. All right. So you guys already went. So here's mine. So timeline. So from 89 to about like 91, it was mostly NBC and CBS in regards to like Saturday mornings. Like it was mostly those two. And then after 1992, like that was when NBC decided that they were not going to be doing any more Saturday morning cartoons, and they were going to switch to shows that were catered toward, like live action sitcoms catered towards teenagers, like Saved by the Bell. That's what they were going to go for. Saved by the Bell. I think Blossom was one of them. I'm not sure, but I know for a fact that they actually had some shows there for teens. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to switch over. And I wasn't watching CBS as much around this time in 92, so it was mostly Fox Kids and ABC that I was mostly watching. Of course, there's Nickelodeon, but the thing is also, you gotta remember that we have weekday cartoons on Fox, and then also an affiliate of mine, which is Channel 11, which would eventually go on to be Kids WB or CW. They would have cartoons in the weekdays because they wanted to take advantage of kids coming home from school, so that they could be able to watch cartoons from like around like from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, yeah. Because then Beverly Hills 90210 came on, and we were all like, nope, no thanks. I'm gonna switch to Channel 13 and watch Bill Nye the Science Guy and Where the World is Going.
Yeah. And for me, it's like I've watched all those shows, and from that channel in general, I would just mostly watch a lot of the Disney Afternoon on, like, because it was called WPIX, which was the original name for it before they switched over to the WB over here. And I'll watch that every day. I'll also watch some random cartoons they would air, or also reruns of cartoons that aired elsewhere, like Garfield and Friends, for example.
I love Garfield and Friends.
I also love Garfield and Friends.
2:30 in the afternoon, baby.
But it was mainly ABC and Fox Kids for me until late 1999, is when I mostly went all in on Kids WB because of one reason. One reason only. Pokemon.
Right, they got the rights to Pokemon in '98. That's right.
Yeah, and what's funny is that I'm glad that I did, because around this time was when they were starting to get really good shows. I got Batman Beyond. We got they were still showing reruns of Animaniacs, but there was actually a show from that same team that did not involve, because I know
what you're talking. Yes.
Before I say it, because I will say this, I'm shocked I did not mention Tiny Toons at all. I love Tiny Toons. Look at my shirt. I have I have Rocco over here, and I have Plucky Duck over here. This is a shirt, 90s Toons Fighters, and Goku's on here too.
Ooh. Nice.
Yes. So Hysteria.
Yes.
With the big fat baby.
You mean Historia?
You have the big fat baby. You have like this elderly grandmother who's lived through so many years of histories.
Loud Kiddington!
And so many other characters, so many wild characters on that show. But unfortunately it got canceled because of what killed a lot of their animation was an awful cartoon called Pinky, Elmira, and the Brain. That show was so bad that half of the animation team and the writing team left WB and they went to Disney.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, it was so bad. Even won an Emmy.
Yep.
It won an Emmy and they all left.
Yeah, they won an Emmy. But there was no one to really pick it up, so the studio heads had to pick it up. But
and then they had to put on Calamity Jane in 2003. Whoops!
Oh God, I remember Calamity Jane.
And apologies to Wayne Head. I loved Wayne Head. Sorry.
Wayne Head is underrated. A very underrated show.
I love Wayne Head.
But you want to know what was not a good show? I never actually got into. I think WB was the one that had Max Steel. I'm not sure.
Yes, I think
I never liked that show.
Yeah, I didn't like it
but
either.
I do remember the Zeta Project. I do remember Shadow and Showdown. I watched a lot of Mucha Lucha. I watched a lot of.
Oh yeah, Lucha.
Jackie Chan Adventures was good. They had a pretty good lineup. And then in 2001, Kids WB changed the world of animation forever with one of the most prestigious animes you could possibly imagine that would come to Kids WB. And that show is called Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Which I remember around 2001, 2002, people just stopped giving a shit about Pokemon. It's like, Pokemon's dead. It's all about Yu-Gi-Oh! Now. I absolutely remember this.
It was never dead.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah,
there was so many of my friends were just like, yeah, new Pokemon game would be announced. Just like, I think, this is probably going to be the last Pokemon game I ever play. I felt like that was like going to be like, that was like on its way out. And for whatever reason, it just kind of like jumped back in.
Yeah, and because I remember there was a decline with Pokemon because around this time was when Ruby and Sapphire came out, which were great games. The problem is there were people who were just like tired of Pokemon and they just switched to Yu-Gi-Oh! And this was also during a time where there were people who thought that they were too cool for the Nintendo GameCube and they were focused on PS2. But
boo those people.
Oh, but here's the thing. I also knew the same. There was also people in my high school that were they were like, oh, GameCube's for kids, but I'm too cool for PS2, so I'm gonna get myself an Xbox.
Edgy little ones.
Yes, that's pretty much how it was. Like, same thing with cartoons, though. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was basically like for the cool kids. It's like oh, Pokemon is lame now. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the cool stuff.
Oh God!
But and yet the Xbox fans were like, oh, screw Yu-Gi-Oh! We got Magic.
That's all right. You know what? Though, I will say this.
Screw you guys. We got Beyblades.
Beyblades?
Come on.
We got Bakugan.
Bakugan.
And also, there was a show on Toonami back in like 2004, I believe, called Duel Masters, which is basically from Wizards of the Coast, like an anime Magic the Gathering of sorts.
Hey, Duel Masters was great, okay? I actually had the cards and competed with the nature deck.
My brother used to like it, though. I thought the show was good, but the show was more like one of those, like, it's not really a guilty pleasure. It's not like a bad show, but it was just there.
All the shows that existed, it was there, like Zatch Bell and Rave Master.
I love Zatch Bell.
And I love Rave Master, but Duel Masters, it was the show of all time. That's all I'm going to say.
Can I write my letter to 4Kids, the former 4Kids? Dear 4Kids, aside from calling rice balls donuts and telling people that they're going to the quote-unquote Shadow Realm in Yu-Gi-Oh!, you should have screened One Piece when you had the chance. Sincerely, me.
And even though I was watching a lot of Kids WB, I was watching the Fox Box back in like 2002 was when it started, because here's what happened. Because Saban sold a lot of their stuff to Disney, and Fox Kids ended up like going to a lot of the Fox Kids content went to Disney. So, which ironically enough, Disney will later buy Marvel Comics and all that stuff. So, and then they would eventually buy a lot of the Fox IPs. So now they have everything. But ABC was still going on. But I wasn't watching it as much, because I used to watch Recess, but then they took Recess out around 2001, 2002.
Can we talk about the fact that also that's how I ended up getting? So, mind you, I fell off of Digimon a little bit, and then after that, when ABC happened, I got into Frontier, which was literally the Tamers fusing into the Digimon with the spirits. That's literally when things started going crazy. That's also the channel that had the Buzz Lightyear cartoon as well.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. What I also remember,
never to be heard from again either.
What I also remember, What I also remember was like Foxbox. We had Fighting Foodons, Ultimate Muscle, Kirby Right Back at Ya, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2003, Sonic X, and this is where we would also get
and Shaman King.
Yes, and we would also get the 4Kids dub of One Piece with the rap.
Yo, dreaming, don't give it up.
So may I digress for a moment? I just started watching the Funimation dub of One Piece back in the end of January.
Thank you.
Oh, good luck with that.
I love One Piece. Period.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
I only heard about the 4Kids version of One Piece after I started what I was watching starting in January.
Yeah.
When I realized that 4Kids attempted this, I buried my head. I'm 30X, the father of 2 children, and I buried my face in my hands and went, why did they not have the gall to screen the episodes beforehand? It's like, get a grip, guys. You can't. You can't just see a show that's animated about pirates and think, oh, this'll be fine. 4Kids, listen. I already wrote my letter.
They got too big for their britches. They thought they could just do whatever they wanted.
Letter to the editor.
I'll be honest with you, 4Kids destroyed Shaman King. It was a lot more bloodier and gruesome in the manga.
They destroyed themselves.
Oh, here's the thing I want to bring up. A lot of the anime that they localized, they Americanized it to help them back.
Yeah.
The most America thing that 4Kids has ever done was had all their characters sing the national anthem.
Oh, yep.
Which
that's a classic.
And 4th of July is coming up, so y'all know that people are going to be sharing that on Twitter and social media.
Oh yeah.
In what series?
What series?
Just an interstitial.
They have everything. Turtles, One Piece, Sonic, and a couple others. Kirby was on there. Like they put them all together. They were all they all spliced, like taking characters out from random episodes and made them sing the national anthem.
I did think it was kind of funny when they put Splinter on. They gave him like this big operatic voice.
Yes.
Instead of his wrestling. And the rockets rattling, bombs bursting in there.
So yes, so it's one of those things where the moment you see it, you cannot unsee it. That's within your mind. You can't get it out, whether you like it or not.
YouTube it, Google it.
Oh, I don't know if I want to now. No, I want to keep. No,
I'm linking you out to the stream. I'm linking it to you.
Do you know how they ended the 4Kids dub of One Piece?
How?
Like they actually did, I forgot the exact specifics, but there was some like big typhoon whirlpool thing, and there was like this line that someone was saying, it was like, "Oh no, we're going into the time vortex!" And like implying that like that final episode was sending them back in time to the first episode.
Yeah.
Oh, and Usopp's rubber knife that we never saw or heard from again.
Yeah, we just talked about the fact
that they knew that they weren't going to dub any more episodes. They were acting like, this is just part of the story. We're just going to repeat the story.
Yeah.
We just stuff them back in time.
Oh, no. Here's the thing, though. That whirlpool that you were talking about is legitimately from the form that they were about to start Skypiea. That was the situation.
Oh.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Wow. That was...
good times.
Good times indeed, yes.
Sad times.
Good times.
Dark times.
Yeah. All right, so...
Time so dark enough that Shellshock disconnected from the call.
Shellshock, I think,
Okay, so let's do the next topic, which is how have Saturday morning cartoons impacted you? Like how they impact you. Okay, so we're gonna start with Kurt.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I would say like kind of what I talked about with Digimon and Space Ghost, and like even like stuff like Doug and Rugrats, Ren Stimpy, Hey Arnold, all that stuff. I feel like more than anything, it really influenced my sense of humor.
Yes.
Like I would say like my sense of humor has evolved thanks to a lot of these shows. Like specifically, talking about Space Ghost. It taught me that like jokes can like how like different things can be funny and not just like one way of just like setup and punchline or a goofy thing happening. You can just be weird, and I feel like it was just like it was important to know that like it was okay to be weird and have and just kind of have just a dry sense of humor. Like I picked up some of that from my parents, but I feel like a lot of the shows that I grew up with were just like kind of taught me it's okay to be a little weird. Like even like I never got along with a lot of kids in my school because I was just kind of that weird autistic fat crybaby, and it's just like that was like Nickelodeon. I felt like was kind of I don't want to say sanctuary. I feel like that's being a little over dramatic.
Yeah.
But I felt like that was like a lot of those shows on Nickelodeon were just a sanctuary where I could just like, hey, I can, it's okay to be weird. It's okay to be funny. It's okay to like, just be a kid and just be yourself. And even if like it didn't like didn't really benefit me until I got into high school when I got into like drama and stuff like that and like school plays and musicals.
Nice.
That was like where I could really like showcase just just being fun, just being entertaining and being in front of a stage in front of people, and like even doing my game show at conventions. I owe a lot of that to a lot of the stuff I watched growing up. Just like because I just love like I always loved the sort like the kind of stuff that would entertain me, and I want to bring that same joy to other people. I want to be the reason people are laughing and having a good time and putting a smile on their face, And so definitely just had that. A lot of those cartoons just gave me that confidence to do so.
Yep. All right. That's actually very good. And now, what about you, Jeremy?
Going off of what Kurt said, now that I'm a union actor, definitely not only sense of humor, but just a need to perform, a need to entertain. I think that shows like Animaniacs with their variety and their songs and just the cavalcade of imaginative creativity from the animators and the writers that just fills your imagination with what is possible. And as a performer, you want that kind of inspiration. You want that kind of draw so that you can be irreverent. You can be yourself. You can kind of find your own way through the realm of normalcy. But I think to answer the question now, I think it impacted my ability to be an effective parent. The kids are goofy. Kids are funny. Kids are off the wall crazy. They are. And that's just what they want to be. And they're going to be that in the most uncertain of times too. So for me now, it's juggling between how do I properly tell my son to tone it down when I know in my head that he is just acting out his favorite television cartoon shows. I feel like I'm telling myself to not do that, so where do you find those moments? Where do you find the time? And I think that Saturday morning cartoons and just kind of that kind of animation medium in that kind of genre in general, I think has taught me as a parent to let him have his space.
Yeah.
Take your space, my son. Take your space, daughter. Like, she watches Bluey and she's rocking back and forth and, she's one and she just is into it. She's got a groove. And I think it's just to let my children take their space and have that realm and let that be there, like Kurt said, but in other words, like a safe haven. Allow them to have that because they're not going to get it again.
Yeah.
Same as us. They're not going to get it. So I'm going to let them have that time and take their space and to just revel in it. Because you don't know when you're going to just click one day and be like, uh-oh, what is this? Oh, it's a bill. Like that kind of to your system. But having that time, what is it? Like it's Billy Crystal wrote a play called 700 Sundays. And it was the 700 Sundays that he got from the time he was born until his father unfortunately passed away. And he was about 15 when that happened. And so those 700 Sundays are 700 weeks. And it's around the age of 14, 15 where we kind of, as a general consensus of society, find ourselves falling out of watching that kind of I guess one who strays away from it immediately would call it a juvenile form of entertainment, but that's not what it is to us here in this forum.
Yeah.
But those 700 Saturdays, those 700 Saturday mornings are really precious, and I want as a parent to allow my children to have that, and I think that's how it impacted me now as an adult.
All right, that's actually very fair.
All right.
I like it.
Taking it in.
Okay, Hito, your turn.
State of origin. Repeat the question one more time.
Okay, so how have Saturday morning cartoons impacted you growing up?
Oh, they saved my damn life. Listen, I was always picked on in school for stupid reasons, and legitimately, I think half the time I was beat up because of those reasons that I was watching the cartoons and I'll get into it. But the thing is, at the end of the day, it also just taught me how to be who I am and enjoy the space that I'm in, and just basically, essentially, enjoy who I am, and that is being the nerdy compote that I can be, the nerdy bear that enjoys just watching shit and sometimes just reenacting it. And when I say reenacting it, I mean like legitimately, if it's the perfect time for me to just like joke around and mess around with it, I'll do it. Do I care if I get picked on at the end of the day? No. It's for me to enjoy, and that's it. As long as I'm not hurting anybody, let me enjoy what I like. And I think that's a very important lesson that the internet needs to learn half the time.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I enjoy what I enjoy. And if you're going to make me feel bad for enjoying shit that I like, you can go yourself. Like, seriously, I don't know. I don't get why people in their right minds, and this has affected me growing up, thinking about it now, like thinking about it, I'm like, why did I care so much that people hated that I enjoyed anime or enjoyed cartoons or enjoyed video games that they don't like? I don't want to shoot a gun in Call of Duty. I want to hit something with a hammer in Monster Hunter. I don't want to catch all the women in Grand Theft Auto. I want to catch some goddamn Pokemon.
Yeah.
Pokemon. Like, why do you care so much? Let me enjoy myself, because we don't want you to get beat up by the kids. I'm like, if they beat me up for something so stupid, then that really is sad, honestly.
Yeah.
So, mind you, I used to get picked on all the time because I enjoyed my shit. And you know what? I fought for my right to enjoy stuff. Period. I felt like all my life I had to fight to enjoy the stuff that I like. Nintendo, anime, Saturday morning cartoons, like card games, whatever. Like, I'm excited about these things. And if you're excited about these things, then you enjoy them. Enjoy them. I just don't feel the need for people to put in their 2 cents on what you enjoy. And that's where, again, I go back to what I'm saying. Enjoy, like, watching these cartoons, they basically taught me to enjoy what I enjoy and fuck everyone else's opinion. Enjoy what you like, and even if you're getting beat up for it, just know that there's something sick with them and not you, because they're trying to grow up so fast and lose whatever wonder that they have in them. Don't let them fade out and make you just as jaded as them.
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
The only thing I will say though is that if there's anything I will say is that I get that there are people who say that when it comes to mediums, we have to be very critical about things. And I'm like, I get it, but sometimes not the place and not the time for it. Just, like, what if people just want to express their love of something that they like, and then people will be like, oh, but you know that this game sucks, or this show, in this case, show sucks. Like, for example, if people talk about how bad the show is, don't get me wrong, I am guilty of this too. Like, I talk about how bad some shows are, but I also like to talk about how good some shows are. How really good, like, some of my favorite shows were, and shows that I actually liked back then that doesn't seem to hold up as well now. I'll call out some of those moments for what they are, but I still enjoy a lot of the shows I watch. So, which goes into my whole point of how have they impacted me. They impacted me a significant amount of moments of my life where I cherish watching Saturday morning cartoons, whether if it's by myself or with my younger brother, or if I have like family over and we watch it at the same time. There's a lot of good shows that I've watched over the years, had a lot of good memories with them, and more importantly for me, I grew up where as I got older, I was conditioned to think that cartoons were only supposed to be for kids. And that if you are like a teenager or an adult, like they tell you what's wrong with you, are you out of your mind? And I've actually been called I unfortunately have been called ableist and homophobic slurs just for liking what I like, and that's not okay, because people need to understand that I can like whatever I like. I'm not going to go out of my way and dunk on anything you like. You like whatever you like. But if you're going to go out of it, it's like you could just say, oh, this is not my thing. I'll be like, okay, that's fine. If you said that, that's it. And that's where the conversation would end. But if you go a step further and start insulting people and even using like insults or even slurs just so that you can justify that, like other people like, oh, you're too old to be watching this. You shouldn't be watching this. Well, you should be doing this instead. That's where you draw the line. You do not do that. That's not something you do, because all you do is piss people off, and you push them away, and they're just not going to want anything to do with you. Let them enjoy whatever, and I'll let people enjoy whatever they want, just as long as it's not going to harm anybody. But that being said, for me personally, I also have a disdain towards the people who think that cartoons should never be taken seriously just because it's a kid's medium, when it didn't really start that way. It actually started as like mostly geared towards adults, like especially cartoons from like the 1920s, 1930s.
Betty
like,
Boop? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. You think Betty Boop was meant for kids? No, it wasn't.
Looney Tunes either.
Looney Tunes did not start out for kids. Like they're for kids.
Yeah,
like,
that was like a new medium. It wasn't a medium like created for children.
Exactly.
And then let's not forget Popeye.
Popeye, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And plus,
let's not forget about Bosco. Oh wait, no, maybe we should.
Oh God, Bosco. All right. Yeah, that's a whole can of worms right there. Anyway, the other thing is that because I've watched all like old like 1920s, 1930s like cartoons, and a lot of that stuff were not meant for kids. They were not, or at the very least, not geared for kids. Yes, Looney Tunes, and also Merry Melodies, where they had like the one-shot stuff, which they tried to do it in a more musical way, but a lot of it, like they had smoking on there, they had alcohol, they would have like characters doing things that you would expect to see in adult shows or whatever, because they were meant for adults. Of course, they had to tone a lot of that stuff down when they would air Looney Tunes for kids on Saturday mornings, because they decided, we're going to start marketing this for kids. And some Looney Tunes shorts, as well as Merry Melody shorts, got banned. There was the Censored 11, where there was a DVD and I think a Blu-ray as well, that has
the one you're talking about.
That has all 11 of them, and they have a disclaimer stating that like these cartoons were a product of their time. While we at Warner Brothers don't agree with any of that stuff right now, we like to mention like the stuff that happened back then. It was not okay back then. And it's not okay right now, but to never actually like have, but to not show these cartoons in their original capacity is the same thing as saying that they never existed in the first place. So they put that as a disclaimer to tell people that what you're about to see is a lot of stuff that's absolutely uncomfortable for many people. They don't agree with it today, but they can't like erase the past. So that's just how it was. It's just now they wouldn't do this, and hence the fact that now Pepe Le Pew, a character that has been around for Looney Tunes for so many years, they can't use him now because the depiction of him, he's a creep. made there was another character, Penelope Pussycat, who he has a crush on and goes after her, makes her feel uncomfortable. Not something that works today. So he did not appear in the new Space Jam movie, and any subsequent stuff that Looney Tunes would have from here on out, they're not going to use him because of that reason. And I understand it. Like, but then they have plenty of other characters. They change a couple of characters for the better, and there's some characters that they just don't use. But at the same time, cartoons are meant to be for everyone. It's not just a kids thing. It's for everyone. Everyone's supposed to like. Yeah, Speedy Gonzalez. Yes, though. That one's a hot debate right there about like
because it is because a lot of like the thing with Speedy Gonzalez is like because apparently like Mexico actually like a lot of like Hispanic people and like people in Mexico, they really like Speedy Gonzalez, and I think like he got initially pulled because a lot of like people thought. A lot of like executives thought, "Oh, this is offensive to Hispanic people." But
can we talk about this? If Hispanic people do not find Speedy Gonzalez offensive, a majority of them don't find it offensive. Why the hell is someone else who is not in that bloodline or in that culture, for that matter, speaking for us?
Correct. No,
I feel like it's sometimes it can just be a performative thing. Like they want to feel like, "Oh we're listening to you," and it's just like we're going to pull these because they're offensive. It's like who said they were offensive?
mind you, I'm Hispanic, and when people are like, "Oh, Speedy Gonzalez is very, very offensive towards Hispanic/Mexican people," and there are Mexican people and Hispanic people who love Speedy Gonzalez so much, yet people are just being so freaking like there are people who are not in that culture, in that race, in that whatever, and are always trying to talk for us. I'm like, please don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Please never do that at all. Like, I don't understand. It's
another example of white people missing the plot.
Yep.
Unfortunately, yeah.
It's another example of like how people are trying to basically explain, oh, well, we shouldn't talk about gay people and all that. Like, are you gay? Are you bisexual? Are you in the LGBT? No.
But yeah.
Then why are you talking for us? Thank you very much.
Why do you get to make decisions on our behalf?
Yeah. The other thing I want to bring up is that whenever people talk about animation as a medium and how it needs more respect,
thank you.
Which I 100% agree on. I will say this that there's so many animated movies that are targeted towards everyone with a very good like artistic value of production, storytelling. You have characters with really good character development from start all the way to the end of those movies, and they tell it in different ways. Whether if it's a hand drawn, whether if it's CGI, they use puppets, claymation, whatever they want to use, because it's all art at the end of the day. And this is coming from me, someone who grew up with Gumby. I grew up with Gumby. I grew up with like the Muppets. I grew up with Fraggle Rock. I grew up with all these shows. And no matter how you do it, you can make it clay, you can make it like even if it's something as simple as like taking boxes and turn it into characters and make it stop motion. It's still art at the end of the day, and it deserves just as much respect. Cutouts like South Park, yes, though. And in terms of cutouts, at least South Park has better quality than fucking Angel Anaconda. I will say that much.
We've come back around, everyone.
Yeah, like. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't like Angel Anaconda.
A lot of us don't. You're
but yeah. So the way that Saturday morning cartoons impacted me, yes, I'm gonna go by everything. The sense of humor. I also like the quality of the animation, especially towards like the late '90s or like early to mid 2000s, because Saturday morning cartoons, for the most part, started off as marketing for toys to sell toys to kids. So. At the end of it all, I'm glad to have experienced at least 2 decades and a half worth of watching Saturday morning cartoons. I kind of fell off around like 2010 because the shows that they were airing weren't really interesting me anymore, and Saturday morning cartoons unfortunately died in September 2014. CW was the last one to have Saturday morning cartoons, and the last Saturday morning cartoon to have ever aired was an episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. And then it ended. No fanfare, no farewell to Saturday morning cartoons. It just ended like business.
Ended.
Yeah, like business was usual, and that was it.
So I wanted to kind of put my stamp on what you were saying, Shellshock. The problem, and also to Hito's credit as well, there is this thing where we, I think it also comes down to being a generational thing where cartoons don't have a real world application to what you need to do and what your responsibilities are as an adult. But throughout the course of time, we have collectively people who are of like-minded minds, again in this forum, have helped create and build an industry around where we can buy and sell within our medium, and that comes down to animation, to video games, to basically entertainment in general.
Everything.
It is a juggernaut, but you know, when you look at someone who, you know, let's say had to give up all of their childish things because they needed to, you know, take a job and support the family, and they had to drop everything. That's a specific scenario. But when it comes down to what Hito was saying about, you know, oh, you still watch cartoons, you're a kid, and you're like 16, 17, and, you know, be made fun of and being bullied in that sense, you know, in the way of fighting for what you like to do, you know, there is that moment of real world application, and you have to say to yourself, well, why am I still watching these cartoons? It can't just be because I need to escape, or it can't be just because I like them. What is it about it? Why am I still choosing to watch animation at 30x? Why? And after kind of doing a little bit more digging on this, and from a personal level, I find that I respect it more now because the people who created those shows had to fight themselves. They had to fight to make sure that they could earn a living doing what they wanted to do.
Agreed.
Stan Lee is a really great example. I think that, I mean, take it or leave it as an example, but John Lasseter even said in the documentary A Pixar Story, he said, I was 6 or 7 years old, and it dawned on him that people made cartoons for a living, and he said, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Right then and there, he decided. And we don't know if he had to fight to do that, but he did it. And when it comes to people saying that's kid stuff, we can actually laugh back at that idea and say, well, there is actual real world application, because when you're done with your job at the end of the day, whether it be in a factory, whether it be out on the farm, or whether it be, you know, doing something in medicine or whatever, you need to unwind. And how do you unwind? Tell me. You know, it could be live action, it could be a medium, but it's always a story. And it's always from people who are in the medium, who are human beings, not artificial intelligence. It's human beings who are telling these stories. And it is so crucial to have all different kinds of ways to tell a story. And that's why when you talk about Saturday morning cartoons, were they catered to selling the toys? Yeah, but we were stuck in that time. We were stuck in that market. Everything that is a byproduct of what was happening on Saturday mornings is evident now in this multi-billion-dollar industry that is entertainment. We can all buy and share together in it and make a living off of it.
Yeah.
And for those who shun that idea, they still have to go home and watch something to make them forget the life that they have.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's what it comes down to.
Right. So now the last thing we'll do before we wrap up, we're going to do community questions. So
let's hear from you.
So Gray54, which is DM in the chat, ask a few questions, but and since one of them has already been answered, well, kind of, I'm gonna bounce around to like one of them. Let's start with is there a cartoon theme song that you enjoy singing to yourself even till this day, and if so, which ones? So for that one, the Ninja Turtles theme song, like from the '80s cartoon, it's been in my mind since the first time I've watched that show, and it's gonna be with me till the day I die. So that's definitely one. DuckTales is another one. Rocko's Modern Life theme song. Hey Arnold. Even something obscure as Eat the Cats theme or Bobby's World's theme, or like.
There's so many.
There's too many.
Yeah, so many to pick, but I'm trying to think of one that it's just like I can just like belt out all the words to.
I can't pick just one.
There was one show I didn't watch as a kid, but I discovered way later. It's the theme song to an '80s cartoon called Mask.
Oh,
I remember that it was like a cartoon.
Crusaders working overtime, fighting crime, secret legends.
I also remember.
Wow! Oh my gosh!
There was also, it's like I've watched intros to cartoons that I didn't even grow up, I didn't grow up with, but they actually had some really good banger intros, and I'm like,
oh, can I mention a hidden gem?
Go ahead.
Banger. Okay, and it's even a great show. Everyone, please, after we are done tonight, go and find Denver the Last Dinosaur.
I've heard of that. Never seen it, but I've heard of it.
Oh, it's great. Please, everyone, flood YouTube after we're done tonight and go watch Denver the Last Dinosaur.
I also want to mention there's a Netflix miniseries called Saturday Morning All-Star Hits. I don't know if anybody's ever watched it, but it's basically it's a send-up of like a Saturday morning cartoon block that kind of has like an ongoing story like behind the scenes of it, and it has like these send-ups like Denver the Last Dinosaur and like Care Bears and things like that, and they're like some of the best parodies of that medium I have ever seen. It's a really
I can't
funny
find
show.
one theme song though. I can't. I mean, my to my credit, and I'm sorry, my son and I know the Ballad of Magellan from Animaniacs.
Oh, I remember that.
But you know, like a lot of these cartoon shows were filled with great music within the series. You know, like Patty, You're the Mayonnaise for Me, or
yes,
you know what I mean, like
Killer Tofu.
So many. You can't just pick one. You can't just pick.
Hell, literally, I will say this: like, even 4Kids, as much as we joke about them, they had really good openings for their shows.
Yeah.
Like, except for the One Piece one. That one I will like. Listen, that one is the lowest one on my tier list. It's not bad, but it's compared to the other ones. Like, my favorite one is the Shaman King opening because it actually pertains to the damn show. Like, it actually pertains to the damn show. Like, if I dare you, like, at the end of this, if you don't like the 4Kids dub for Shaman King, it's fine. They made a remake with the actual blood and gore like it's supposed to have. But I will say this. I will definitely say at least listen to the 4Kids version of the Shaman King opening, because it actually has that same mystical feeling that it needs to be done.
Yes.
And it gets me excited to watch the next episode. But for a cartoon, I will say the Rugrats theme song definitely got stuck in my head because I like percussion a lot. I play a lot of percussion instruments. I was a drummer. I play the guitar, and I also use keyboards, kalimbas, and whatever you can think of that's percussion-wise. So hearing the xylophones in the beginning is great, and then hearing the reiteration that they made for the first Rugrats movie, where they actually had someone singing the theme song with actual lyrics. I was like,
oh yeah,
it evolved.
What was that band? Was that Blackstreet?
Let me see. Hold on a sec.
Who was it? I know the song.
I want to go there. Take me there. Take me to.
I believe that.
Mace. Oh, everyone was in that song.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So next question is, Let's see.
Okay, Maya featuring Blackstreet Mason. Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Are there Saturday morning cartoons you thought you wouldn't like, but ended up enjoying the more episodes you watched? Oh man, there's plenty. Huh?
I can start you there. Jackie Chan Adventures I did not think I would like, and because I wasn't used to the animation. There's a thing that happens to children a lot, because I remember this happened specifically when I was teaching. If a certain animation doesn't look right to a child, they will not watch the show, even though they like the sound of the story and how it's going. If that's something to look, if that's something that they don't like, they won't watch the show regardless.
To be fair,
it's a big thing.
To be fair, the first episode of a show is never an indicator of how good the show is.
No, I'm not talking about the first episode. I'm talking about the animation in general.
True, yeah.
Like, that usually throws people off.
Yeah.
That is a good question. I'm
trying to
sit with that for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if I was ever, hyped for a show and then it ended up being disappointed, or the other way around, is just where I thought something looked dumb, because, I was just a dumb child and just absorbed everything. And it's just there were things I didn't like, but it's just I'm not sure if there's something I hated but ended up thought I would hate but ended up liking. And the only example I can think of is something that I ended up liking way later would be SpongeBob.
Okay.
When SpongeBob was first revealed, it was a TV magazine, and I thought it looked like the stupidest friggin' show in the world. So I just never watched it until probably 10 years later. And I saw some of the first few seasons. It's just okay, this is pretty funny.
I got one, and this is gonna sound really weird because I'm a huge fan. You can see right there is actually the Rock the Dragon of Dragon Ball Z. It took me a long time, and I'll explain why.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, Dragon Ball Z is another one.
The vision. So here's the thing. When you watch American animated cartoons, they're constantly in motion. They're constantly moving. There's always something happening on the screen. At all times, though, there's no lull, there's no stop, there's no pause for dialogue. When you get to Dragon Ball Z, being in form and function and anime, there's the stop, then there's talking, and then there's another picture, and there's talking. And then you may get a bit of an action sequence, but then it stops. And that turned me off because you're expecting all of this movement and motion from the theme song, which was taken from the first 3 movies, by the way. But it misleads you. And so I felt misled. But then years down the road, when it came to Toonami, and I was a little bit more of age for that kind of programming, then I really got into it, but only just. So, as much as I want to say, oh yeah, I love Dragon Ball Z from the very beginning, yeah, Rock the Dragon, but no, I gotta tell you, it turned me off seeing how everything just kind of stopped cold. Because I wasn't used to it as a kid. I was so used to everything happening and being overwhelmed with that kind of visual, that visualization of style and whatever. And so as I got older, I wanted more narrative. And so Dragon Ball Z, I got really into after the fact. So that is definitely a show that I can say that, it took me a while to get into. But once I did,
I kind of jumped into
I was
that.
hooked for life.
I got jumped into that myself, when Cell was first being revealed. I just decided on a whim one day, it's just you know what, I'm gonna give Dragon Ball Z a shot, and that was when Cell was first being introduced, and it's just okay, this is good.
I got into it especially when Cell just absorbed 17, and I was like, what the hell is this thing?
Yeah.
Why is that person being inhaled by the tail of a giant
for me, it was the episode where they first discovered Cell's ship and his skin and stuff. It's just oh, what's going on here? Then I became addicted.
And then Sailor Moon happened on Toonami too, so I also got addicted to that as well. And this is another thing that I wanted to bring up. I used to watch certain shows that would be deemed as girly. And that was another thing that would get me so frustrated, because Sailor Moon was really good. And I would have to be oh no, if I watch this, people are going to think I'm girly now. God damn it.
Yeah.
No. And it was another thing that I hated so much about cartoons, because the thing is, they are definitely segmenting boy and girl cartoons at some point. If you watch the Barbie cartoon, or My Little Pony, or Gem and the Gem was another one that was apparently in that same category. It was like, if you watch any shows that have any type of female empowerment, you were all of a sudden a girly boy, and now you must be on watch, and you must watch G.I. Joes and Transformers. And I'm like, I hate that so much. Because I actually enjoyed Sailor Moon. It was great. I did not like the fact that they made Haruka and Michiru cousins, but we know what they really were, because they were very romantic, compromising positions, and I was okay with it. I just knew that they loved each other very much.
Yeah. They were great cousins.
That was a great question. Whoever asked that.
All right, next up is let me go check right now. Next up is from Dariwan. Which was your top network for watching Saturday morning cartoons? Which we kind of already we already discussed that. But the other part is, did you switch or did you stay pure to one? We kind of discussed that already.
Yeah, we switched.
Yeah. But the other ask was what was your favorite Saturday morning cartoon that had multiple shows, like Ninja Turtles or Power Rangers had multiple shows, different ones?
Power Rangers, absolutely.
Ninja Turtles for me.
Digimon for me. They had different they weren't even seasons, they were different subjects. The only one that actually had a continuation were 1 and 2. 3 was Tamers, 4 was Frontier, 5 was freaking Data Squad, aka Savers. I hate Cross Wars. So I hate Cross so much. I'm sorry. I gave it a chance. I gave it so much of a. I watched 15 episodes in, and at this point I was like, I can't continue. This is not what I'm used to. This needs to. I know we had DNA evolution, but still, this is taking it a step further that we don't need it to be in.
Yeah. Digimon is the same for me. I was really into the first 3. I wasn't really into Frontier all that much. I watched a few episodes and it's just I don't know if I'm into this, and I didn't really watch too much of any of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I did. I know a lot of people don't really like the Try movies.
The Try movies. Because they redacted a few things in the Try movies.
Yeah, they did, but I did enjoy them because I was I said before, I was just invested in the characters so much that I was just nice to see them, just doing their thing again, and just seeing where they were, what kind of stuff they were getting up to, things like that. Just, I love those characters so much. So, but I mean, I get it. I get why people are just iffy on them. But in terms of just shows that had multiple versions, it was Power Rangers. I mean, I know that's not a cartoon. I could go a whole nother episode talking about my love of Power Rangers.
Oh yeah,
there are a couple of shows that I can think of that I kind of came back to. I mean, I actually enjoy the 2012 Ninja Turtles more than I like the 87 and 96 version.
Yeah.
I watched the Animaniacs from 2020 release. They have a 3rd season of that now,
which I completely forgot existed. I never heard any fanfare about that 3rd season.
Yeah.
I mean, it came out,
and it's apparently the last one.
Yeah, the problem with that, the new Animaniacs, is that we are in an age with 20 years of South Park and Rick and Morty and BoJack Horseman, that it's kind of introducing kids now to what our generation believes is irreverent, but it's still pushing the envelope towards a BoJack Horseman. You know what I'm saying? It kind of gets caught in this weird, we have to try and push it 90s edgy, but for 2020. But kind of doesn't work very much. But I did watch it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I just feel like it just kind of felt like the writers weren't really communicating with each other, because I feel like there were a lot of gags that just kind of repeated over a short period of episodes. They make Trump references episodes after each other, was just they made political jokes in the original show, but I feel like they were
a little broken
hard enough in the original show where it's just it didn't feel like they were always making Trump jokes.
I've got one.
Making reference to Yakko's World, they would reference that a few times in a string of episodes. Just space those references out. Come on.
I've got my show that I appreciate and have followed since the beginning. The new DuckTales. The one that came back in 2017. I watched all 75 of those episodes. What a great series. That had
I need to catch up with that.
Like, they started that show knowing how they wanted to end it. Like, that I appreciate that very much. So
yeah, it was like one of the
I would say
strongest
DuckTales is my number one for, like, coming back to for a version.
Shell and Showdown was something I was very into and I stood loyal to. I saw my first episode was not the first episode. However, I ended up going back and watching all the episodes when I was really young, and because they replayed them quite often, because during the WB era they also had a weekday schedule. Shell and Showdown was one of those shows. I was able to rewatch everything. But I would have to say Challenge Showdown and Digimon were the ones that I basically stayed loyal to. And I feel like a year was a different era, but I still watched the shows even during those eras, so kind of fell in and out like crazy.
I mean, I guess if we're talking about, like, staying loyal to, I guess I wasn't really staying loyal to Power Rangers, because, like, after Turbo is when I kind of fell off, even though, like, retroactively I did, like, In Space and Lost Galaxy and a few other seasons here and there, but I did drop off. But in terms of, like, a show that I kept through from, like, its inception to a reboot to a second reboot is Beavis and Butthead. Like, the newer episodes of Beavis and Butthead have been absolutely fantastic. Like, they revived it once, like, back in 2011, and then they revived it again on Paramount Plus, and yeah, it's really, still really, really, really funny.
Cool.
So I feel like that's just been consistently good.
Oh, good.
So let's see other questions. Let me see what else is here. I'm gonna look right now. So we got a couple more. So let's see. Are there any Saturday morning cartoons? Oh, we just already read that one. Which era of the 80s, 90s, etc. of Saturday morning cartoons did you think had the best lineup? This is from Maverick.
I mean, I feel like I'm just kind of biased because I grew up, that's like the 90s, like I said, when I first started retaining memories. So, but I honestly do think the 90s did have the best, like, variety of quality. I mean, there are obviously bad cartoons, but I mean, I'm sure, like, people that grew up in the 2000s would say, their cartoons were really, really good too, and I don't doubt that, honestly.
Yeah, this is going to be a very biased answer.
Yeah, so
look at it.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it fluctuates. The lineup changes. It's so hard to narrow down not only station but year and lineup and era. You know what I mean? That's a difficult question to answer if we're really being pragmatic about it.
Yeah, but I honestly do think the 90s was the start of just cartoons being really good. I mean, obviously the cartoons were, like, they were entertaining back in the 70s and 80s and things like that, but I feel like just creator-driven stuff was, like, really found its prime in the 90s, and I feel like that really showed. That it was just, like, not, like, obviously some of that stuff was just to push advertisements and toys and things like that, but it's like, these were cartoons that were, like, written by people who were passionate about, like, had a passion and wanted to provide something entertaining while at the same time bowing to capitalism.
You know what's interesting is you mentioned capitalism, but I also have to mention the ACT place, the organization again. Those parents that were pushing for more educational entertainment or whatever. Like every big major channel had to fill at least 3 hours of educational infotainment for children once a week. A lot of that was stocked into yes, a lot of that was stocked into the Sunday morning slot, so that they could just fill it up and just not have to worry about too much of it. But I think that forced a lot of creators to try and figure out how to push their narrative in a way that didn't seem educational. I know watching Batman the animated series, I learned a lot about, like, scientific stuff. I learned a lot about how you think about the human psyche in detective work. You just, like, I feel like they pushed the medium to a point where that they didn't have to put the E in the I in the corner of the show, of the TV before the show started. Like, they're just going to interject it. Like, that's what Hysteria was all about. You know what I mean? Like, you just put the loony in front of it, but you don't really have to make it educational. It's just kind of there for its own sake, and you do what you will with it, and that I think kind of pushed people to be a lot more creative to go around that and present things in a way that they're like, oh yeah, we'll make this song about the nations of the world, and we've got kids memorizing it 30 years later.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's hard to answer that question though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So for me, like, the main thing about it is that I would probably say the 90s and like half of the first half of the 2000s were like the best eras for me for watching cartoons, because like for the 80s I only have like recollections from 1989, so I can't exactly say like the 80s for sure, because even though I was born in 86, I don't remember anything before 89, so I can't really say that. So 90s and the first half of 2000s for me. That's mine. Yeah. Let's see. Next.
What was the question?
Hito. It's basically which era of Saturday morning cartoons, whether it's 80s, 90s, etc., did you think had the best lineup?
90s. You guys pretty much stand. I was listening to everything that you guys were saying, and pretty much the 90s, especially when we had little shorts in between. We had cartoons within our cartoons, which was great. Yeah, there was definitely more variety in the 90s. I can't really fight all on that. 2000s was good, like 90s, early 2000s. That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next one is from Keyblade. What was a cartoon you absolutely love, but you were only able to see it if you were lucky enough? Oh my god, I gotta really think about this one.
Me too. Actually, it just came to me.
Wait, say that question again.
Okay, what was the show you loved so much, but you were only able to watch it if you were lucky enough? Like you happened to be there at the right place, right time, but you don't get to watch it too often.
Oh, got a very obscure one for you guys. So Cartoon Network had a show. They did a show based on the Dot Hack series, The Legend of the Twilight Bracelet. Yeah. They actually had it English dubbed in Cartoon Network.
Yes.
Only problem, it only aired on Fridays at 4 a.m. So,
Jesus.
Yep.
So those nights, like I said, when I was younger, I kind of had a habit, and mind you, this was during the time I had no cable. So I only got lucky enough to see about 3 episodes when I was staying over at my late grandparents' place. And they literally had the TV open, and they would get mad at me for being up at 4 a.m. Like, why are you up at 4 a.m? Dot Hack, The Legend of the Twilight Bracelet's going to be on. And there was only 12 episodes of the show, by the way. So I would have to be very lucky to wake up at 4 a.m. or to stay up all night just to watch the show. And then I realized growing up that the show was mostly fan service on Cartoon Network. It was child-friendly fan service, but it was fan service nonetheless. And it was very wrong fan service. And now to this day, I'm like, I like the games, but why are they doing this? They are brother and sister.
Yeah. It's a little skeevy.
I have my phone. Go ahead, Kurt. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say a lot of it just was like because of channels just I wasn't getting on my service, but on our cable service. But yeah, when I go to my grandma's house, like Cartoon Network was one of those networks that I like really look forward to watching. Specifically Cartoon Planet was a personal favorite. Another one, let's see, I'm trying to think. A lot of Disney Channel stuff, because I don't know if a lot of people remember, but Disney used to be like a paid channel,
premium cable
like
channel,
HBO, like a HBO or Showtime. So it's like every now and again, once in a blue moon, our cable provider would have like, a free weekend, Disney
yes,
Channel.
I watched that too.
Yep.
So it's just like I would see a lot of stuff on there. I can't remember too many cartoons on there, other
Fluffy
than like
Dogs. Fluffy Dogs.
Yep.
One episode, a pilot. It was a 40-minute episode of Fluffy Dogs, and my wife brought it to my attention. Find it on YouTube, everybody. Fluffy Dogs.
I'll look for it.
Fluffy Dogs. I'll have to look at that. But yeah, a lot of the Disney Channel stuff was stuff like Welcome to Pooh Corner, Adventures in Wonderland,
Dumbo Circus,
Fraggle Rock. Yeah, Dumbo Circus. I think Fraggle Rock aired on there a little bit, because even though that was an HBO show, I don't remember. Like, we had HBO, I just don't remember ever seeing it on there. I only saw it on when I guess it like reran on Disney Channel at some point. But yeah, so not really too many cartoons, but yeah, just stuff like Disney Channel free weekends. and
no, those were great. You just
from my grandma's.
pop the VHS and the VCR and record for like as much programming as you can get.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Okay, for me, it was a lucky shot in the dark when I was in, oh my gosh, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, that I would try to tune into Channel 11 at 2 p.m. on a Friday, random Friday, if I got out of school early. Samurai Pizza Cats.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God,
That's another one.
Samurai
exists.
Pizza Cats.
That's definitely up there for me.
I want some pepperoni.
That existed, I
The
found
Paul
out.
Lind,
Such a fun show.
Yes.
the Paul Lind impersonator. Oh my god. Okay, so when I caught Samurai Pizza Cats on, I was just like, today is going to be a lucky Friday.
Yep.
So that was my like one show as a kid, at least, that like if I was at the right place at the right time and I got out early from school on like a random Friday, I was like, yes, we're going to watch Samurai Pizza Cats.
Yep.
Nice.
Let's
Yeah, I
see.
kind of discovered that on accident at my other grandparents' house. Like just one day, it's just like that was on. It's like, what is this weird show? And yeah, I just fallen in love with it and discovering it way later again.
Yeah. Let's see. For me, like, if I had to think of a show where I was lucky enough just to catch it on a random time slot, there's plenty, but the one that stood out to me, and this one was more of like a show that I've had vague memories of. Well, I know like later seasons of Bobby's World was like that, because there are times where I'm like, oh, they're still showing new episodes, but the one that I remember, and this was what, it's not really a Saturday morning cartoon, but this aired like way after the show got canceled. Does anybody remember a show called Capital Critters?
What?
Sounds really familiar.
Whoa.
Okay, so for context, this was one of the 3 cartoons that were to come out in 92, 93 to compete with The Simpsons. They were trying to go towards like a more like it's not adult in terms of raunchiness or whatever, but adult in terms of like the theming, because they had Hanna-Barbera contracted to work on this show, and the main character was voiced by Neil Patrick Harris, who at the time was coming out of Doogie Howser MD, and the show was basically mice in the White House. The main character came from a farm, and his family died, and he was the only one that escaped. So he ended up moving to the White House to live with his cousin. So,
Wow. You just opened up a floodgate.
yeah. And the thing is, there were 2 other shows that came out around the same time. There was Family Dog, which was a sitcom that aired on CBS in 93. It was like an animated sitcom. It was supposed to compete with The Simpsons. It revolved around a dog that was just wacky and not a good dog. And then there was a show called Fish Police, which was made by Hanna-Barbera in an attempt to start making more shows for older crowd. And it had 6 episodes, and you know what's the funny thing? They were actually like making merchandise that are geared towards kids, but this show was not for kids, and it had a lot of adult themes. It had some characters with sexual themes, stuff that does not hold up today. I'm like, I honestly feel like a show like Fish Police would have been better if they would have actually made it something for kids and not make it for adults. That show was never going to do well for adults. Show like that, no. But Capital Critters is my choice.
Nice.
Next one is from Mr. Ben. Are there any cartoons that you wish got a revival or reboot?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Like, what are your answers? I want to hear what you guys got.
My joke answer is Biker Mice from Mars.
Yes. Except it already got one.
Joke answer.
It actually already got one, but
Come back around to my real one.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something that I feel like was just kind of left behind without it just like really like resolving, not resolution, but just like think like a lot of the stuff I end up did get a follow up or resolution with Rocco and Hey Arnold and
Yeah.
Bader Zim. Even more recently, Clone High got a second season.
Yep.
Futurama's coming back again, even though it's just that's debatable if it needs to come back.
It really doesn't.
It doesn't have to come back.
It ended already. It had a good ending. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
40% reboot. Do.
I'm trying to think of something that needs was. In terms of a reboot, I would have loved to see a Gem in the Holograms, a new
Yeah.
animated Gem in the Holograms.
So would my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I want a remake, and I mean an actual good remake of Teen Titans.
Ah, okay.
We're not talking Go. I want season 6, please.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, they're capable of doing it. You want to know why? Because apparently in Teen Titan Go, they had a whole Paradox episode where they were originally drawn. So I'm like, hey, so you have the capabilities. You have the capabilities of giving us the Teen Titans that we actually want, but you just pretty much gave us the middle finger.
Yeah.
There's no mind you, there's no excuse to why they can't do the original Teen Titans that they did on Cartoon Network. There's no excuse now because they actually drew them out and everything. So it's frustrating to see that they gave us a small taste just to tease us and give us the middle finger. I'm like, are you kidding me? You are capable. You are capable. You have showed us this. And goddamn,
I would really like a revival of The Critic.
Yes. I would love that show.
You're always like a YouTube critic now, and I feel like that was a show that had 2 perfect seasons, and it's just I'm kind of glad they had that Shockwave season. I don't know if anyone remembers.
I remember
Shockwave.
I remember Shockwave.
Yeah. But yeah, there was a mini series they did on Shockwave's website, which wasn't great, but it was still pretty funny. But oh, actually, I don't even know if I'd want a revival of The Critic, honestly. It was perfect as it was.
Yeah.
And it's plus, I can't see, I don't want to see any show revived that starred, or at least had Christine Cavanaugh as a voice, because she had such a unique voice that I feel like it's hard to replicate. It's just you couldn't it's hard to replicate Chucky. You can't they tried to replicate Dexter's voice from Dexter's Lab, and it's just it's just she had such a unique voice. It's just hearing any kind of replacement would just feel wrong.
Exactly.
You mentioned the critic. I'm John Lovitz. I was the critic. I was also the narrator for the Banjo and Kazooie VHS tape.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's good.
Don't remind me.
Oh, okay, wait. I have mine before we go off on a tangent. Hanna-Barbera's Pirates of Dark Water.
All right.
So I watched that show when it came out, and it ended on a cliffhanger. But I think it could be so much more. It just had so much going for it, and they dumped a whole bunch of money into it, and it didn't do well just because it was a more mature narrative.
Yeah.
But I think it will work now. I think it's more I don't know, I wouldn't go as far as calling it I would kind of label it more like an animated Pirates of the Caribbean instead of an Americanized One Piece. You know what I mean? But yeah, look up Pirates of Dark Water. I would totally love to see a modern remake of that in animated form.
I used to love that show as a kid. It was on ABC. But speaking of ABC, there was a show, and this is going to be my answer. There was a show that had 2 seasons, and it ended on a cliffhanger. And this show, I loved it so much. And in fact, this series is what got me to get a Sega Genesis instead of a Super Nintendo. I did get a Super Nintendo later.
Oh.
Sonic the Hedgehog on Saturday morning, we called it SatAM.
Yeah, the Sat AM.
Yes.
Yeah.
That show.
That show.
2 seasons. The second season had the misfortune of being in the same time slot as when Fox would air season 2 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and more people watched that.
Yeah.
So,
I've got one more. Sorry.
well, hold on. Let me finish real quick.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
the last episode of season 2 ended on a cliffhanger, and there was supposed to be a season 3 in the works that was going to resolve it, but it got canceled. And season 3, they would have introduced more characters from the Archie comics, and there was one character I was looking forward to seeing on the show that ended up not making it, and that character would have been Knuckles. He would have actually been in it. So I want them to somehow find a way to bring that particular Sonic show back and continue it. I know there have been a total of 4 Sonic shows that came out afterwards. Sonic Underground, which is not a good show. Sonic X, which take it or leave it. Sonic Boom, which I personally enjoyed for the humor. And Sonic Prime, which I haven't seen yet.
Prime is good. My son likes Prime.
Yeah, I heard it's good.
You don't want a revival of Sonic Underground. They still have to find their parents.
I don't care.
Their parents must be found. It said it in the theme song.
Who cares? We don't need that.
Shellshock, to be honest with you, I think that the Archie comics took care of the Sat AM story.
They did.
But I have another one that I think would be pretty interesting to bring back. Mighty Max.
Yeah.
Mighty Max.
I remember Mighty Max.
So here's the thing about Mighty Max.
Different than Mighty Max.
Mighty Max actually was going back to one of our earlier questions about, like, what show had you come back more and more for the continuing narrative. Mighty Max was probably that show that did that for me, because that first season, he travels from and to, and you have to kind of know where he was before in order to keep things moving. But Rob Paulson voiced Mighty Max. Tony Jay was Virgil the Bird. Like, you get this all-star cast in this one-shot show that only lasted 2 seasons based off of I hate to say it, but it was the 90s. They needed a male counterpart to Polly Pocket. They made Mighty Max. But the show ran, and the show ran really well in '94 on the weekends, on the Saturday AMs. Yeah. Mighty Max would probably be the second show that I would want to see rebooted in that sense.
Yeah.
Didn't Mighty Max kind of end the same way as I was talking about, like that 4Kids dub of One Piece?
Yeah, it kind of ended just like some kind of a time loop or whatever. They were like, we're not getting more than 2 seasons out of this.
Yeah. There's a few more questions. So Mr. Ben also asked, like, building off of like an earlier question. Now, were there any shows that you initially enjoyed but wound up disliking, or the more that it went on, you were soured on it, that you wouldn't feel comfortable watching today? Like, there's a couple of examples. Like, I know, obviously not a Saturday morning cartoon, but The Simpsons, because I used to love it, but at some point, like, I just got tired of it because it just doesn't feel funny anymore. The story just doesn't really do it for me anymore. So there's that. But in terms of Saturday morning cartoon, personally, I will say that Captain N is definitely one of those. And I personally think that maybe we could have actually have done without there was this one show on Nickelodeon that had like a character that was on a wheelchair. What was it called? Pelswick?
Pelswick.
I don't like it. I'm
familiar with it. I just never watched it. So in terms of answering the question, I kind of hinted at this like early on in the episode, but I would say CurtDogg. CurtDogg is one of those shows that is just like, I was kind of excited for it. It seemed like a fun show, but it's just like the more and more I watch it, it's just like, God, this is just a really mean-spirited show.
Yeah,
it's just like CurtDogg constantly is just getting beat up and punished, and just like, and it's just like I feel like they like the bullies never really get any like repercussions. It's just like, haha, CurtDogg's a freak. Look at them get beat up and insulted and like put in bad situations. Isn't that funny?
The Greaser Dogs.
Like, I never really liked that.
Yeah. What about you? So you got Jeremy, Hito. Jeremy.
I had to sit with this a little bit. I'm not quite sure. A show that I fell off on that I enjoyed starting out. Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah.
Pinky and the Brain.
yeah,
It started strong because it was one of those, compete against the Simpsons primetime shows.
They did, yeah.
But the more it went on, I realized that they had to pull back on their budget for animation, and it just felt very slow and stale. Like they were just kind of fishing for more like ideas. It's kind of it's the yes always curse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody understands what reference I'm making.
That's an improv. That's an improv reference you're making.
Yes. So basically, what happens? It just kind of give context. So Orson Welles was super drunk when trying to record a commercial for something, and it's a very famous, like, in Hollywood industry joke. And Pinky and the Brain took that and made it kid friendly and made it like a short one-off. And I was like, this is brilliant. This is what this show needs. It needs to be that kind of buddy comedy, like back and forth kind of thing. And it didn't become that. And I was very disappointed. It kind of, that show fell down after the Christmas special for me. Because I think it lost its animation budget when everything went downhill in terms of them switching from Fox to WB, and I don't know, but Pinky and the Brain had a lot of potential and it just kind of lost its muster.
Yeah. Hito?
I had it in my brain just a second, but wait, now I remember. Johnny Bravo fell out for me. And the reason why, so the thing that happened with me is the fact that I don't like characters that are overly, like, don't get the hint of, no, stop, please. You are borderlining very much a whole bunch of things. That's why I kind of didn't like Brock that much in Pokemon. I hate characters that are so, like, oh, I love you, or, oh, I'm going to try and get you, and yada, yada. I'm like, can you, like, maybe chill? I want to see the battle.
No.
I want to see... Yeah, like it's a lot of that, and with Johnny Bravo, it's like watching Pokemon, except all of it is a Brock episode, is a Brock just hitting on everything he sees. I'm like, can you just, like, for 5 seconds not try to hump something that?
To be fair, they weren't really, like, at least in those early seasons, they weren't really trying to portray him as, like, the good guy. It's like he always got the shit beat out of him, and he always got his comeuppance, and so it's like. It was just more, the comedy was focusing, like, more, like, around this character just being kind of an asshole that you're not supposed to root for.
I know, but then also they also kind of, like, gave him the, but he's just a mama's boy that lives at home with his mom. And I'm just, part of me is like, you're trying to rationalize this, but at the same time, for someone who loves his mother so much, you would think he knows how to respect other women. It's kind of a contradiction.
Yeah,
kind of like a big contradiction. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it was less of that in, like, the first season than as seasons went on. It just it became more of that. It's just like, I can see where you're coming from in that regard.
Yeah,
I just fell off of it because it's like, you're gonna be this really misogynistic pervert. At least stick through it, the whole thing. Don't try to make him. Don't try to explain it. Just explain the fact that he's a terrible person who does not know how to take the answer no.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty much what it is. It's like, you can't... That's like somebody going, I'm not lying, I'm just sparing their feelings. No, you're lying. Sorry. Basic point. You're lying. I'm not stealing, I'm just borrowing. No, you're stealing. The person doesn't know that you took it, and we don't know when you're going to return it back. It's basically like, with Johnny Bravo's like, oh, look, he's flirting with somebody, but he's a mama's boy, so he does respect women. No, I'm sorry, he doesn't. It's kind of like, no matter how many times you explain it, he's still doing something that he should not be doing. Ergo, understand the word no, understand that she's not interested. Understand all of these things, please.
Boundaries.
At the end of the day, thank you. Yeah. So that's kind of how I am when it comes to, like, certain things that need to be explained. Like, you can't change the title of it. That's kind of like changing. That's kind of just changing murderer to defender because he stopped someone that was, like, doing that. You have no right to say he still murdered somebody at the end of the day. So can't really just put those things there. And that's what I felt they kept doing with Johnny Bravo. I enjoyed the show, and I loved him getting his ass whooped whenever he deserved it. But at the end of the day, it's like, no, he's a creep. And just because he loves his mom does not mean that he's okay. He treats his friends like shit. And at the end of the day, he deserves any type of ass whooping he deserves.
Yeah.
And stop trying to basically explain him in a good light. You're not going to change my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So next question is, so which is your favorite Saturday morning opening? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I think we went through this.
We actually
talked about this.
Oh, we did talk about that. But favorite Saturday morning villain?
Oh,
From this one, Skull Kid Tiger. So that's his question. So
I love Skeletor.
of course, yeah.
I think because of the memes. So you know what? Okay, wait. Maybe I won't take it back. But I mean, we'll put Skeletor there. But a really good villain. I mean, Freakazoid had great villains.
Yeah.
Freakazoid had great villains. But I want to kind of nail one.
I got one for you.
All right.
Slade was great in Teen Titans. Honestly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have two technically. I have Slade and Chase Young from Shaolin Showdown.
Yeah.
So the reason why Slade is because it got to the point where he gave Robin PTSD. And it was literally to the point where he was actually fighting his own friends because he kept seeing Slade in his brain.
I remember that.
It was like straight. The fact that you gave Robin PTSD is strong enough. And then the reason why I like Chase Young is because I know I just finished talking about a character that understood the word no. And Chase Young was one of those characters. He didn't try to force Omi to be evil. But he was like, you would do better on the evil side. We have a better thing. Like, he would try to sell and pitch the idea to Omi. Omi, of course, would say no. And then it got to the point where he actually kind of did his evil insidious thing where he didn't technically break any rules. He basically had Omi end up changing his own personality by going into the yin-yang world and turning him evil.
Oh,
and at
right.
that point, because Omi went in there willingly and then also willingly said he swore his loyalty to Chase Young while under evil influence, he technically didn't break any rules.
Yes.
So he knew what he was doing, and I loved it. He did it everything through the honor system, did not disrespect. He's like, listen, I'm evil, but I'm not going to be so freaking evil that I lost any bit of my honor in this. I'm going to do this right, and I'm going to take over the world the right way. And that is how you do a villain. I like the villains that are like, listen, I'm not like, for example, Slade did the same thing too, where he saved Robin off the building. He's like, you saved me? I'm not done with you yet. I'm just like, okay, yes. This is what we're talking about. This is grade A evil because they knew they weren't done with it and they knew how to do it in the correct way. Like, it was like a code of evil for them and they understood how to do it. I'm like, yes. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
I think I have mine. It's Joker.
The Joker?
Yeah, honestly, it's hard to top Joker.
Yeah, it's really hard. Mark Hamill did such an amazing job on that.
He did.
And another villain that follows these rules too, because again, he has a way that he wants to finish Batman, and if it's not his way, he will be pissed off. Remember what he did to Harley?
Yeah.
Without Batman, crime has no punchline.
There you go.
Yep.
It's like, first of all, who writes that? Second of all, give that person a raise.
Exactly.
Joker, I mean, Batman the Animated Series was a weekday syndicate, but I mean, it's in the realm of Sat AM. I mean, gosh, you can't beat that.
Well,
there's very minimal that can really touch upon how well that character is written for that show.
Yeah, as much as I agree with the Joker, I have to go with the most obvious ones for me, Shredder and Krang.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Shredder and Krang.
What are you doing with my body?
but you would also go with the Joker as well, Kurt, or any other characters?
Yeah, I'd say Joker, Shredder, and Krang are up there. It's just I didn't watch too many shows that were like action oriented or had like an actual villain, so it's like a lot of my like memory, a lot of like the shows I grew up with don't really have. I mean, they had like bullies or mean people, but it's just terms of villain, it's just it's really hard to talk
Yeah.
about.
Sorry, I have
Exactly.
one more. And the CEO of Warner Brothers and Animaniacs.
Oh yes.
There we go. Okay.
Sorry.
So we got 2 more questions. Next
Okay.
one's from Director Brony. Which cartoon shorts, like Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, and all that stuff, do you like the most?
I said this answer
Looney
earlier.
Tunes.
I've got 2 of them.
I said this answer earlier, but the offbeats were actually just like a nice little break in between the Nickelodeon action.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I would probably have to go with like I love Looney Tunes, but specifically, I grew up with. I used to love the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote cartoons growing up. Those were my jam. I actually watched them before watching Tom and Jerry.
Okay. I love Tom.
Yeah,
and Jerry,
for whatever reason, I was just never a big fan of Tom and Jerry. I don't know what it was about those cartoons, but I never really enjoyed them as much as like other people did. I don't know, maybe it's just the concept got a little old for me, and I wasn't like. I mean, I really liked Looney Tunes. I like those Disney shorts, but yeah, in terms of like consistency, it definitely would have been Looney Tunes, except for that like 7 Arts era where they had people like Cool Cat and like those 2 rabbits, Bunny and Clyde, and just a bunch of just reject characters that were just not good at all.
Yep.
Actually, my 2 favorite shorts are Warner Brothers shorts. The first one is Duck Amuck.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Are we talking like specific shorts or just a series of shorts?
Anything really.
Okay,
Okay,
so,
yeah.
you're right. So, okay, Duck Amuck is when Daffy gets manipulated by the animators and into
that's
like
right.
all these different situations, and then the animator just starts torturing him, and then at the end you find out, spoiler, is Bugs Bunny.
Yep.
And then the other one is What's Opera Doc.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
What's Opera Doc? Okay, sorry. I will stand on this pedestal. What's Opera Doc is probably the finest animated short in the history of animated shorts. And the only reason I say that is it's not for style, it's not for all the advancements that we've had in animation since. It's simply for the fact that you have Elmer Fudd singing "Kill the Wabbit, kill the Wabbit."
Yes.
There's no other combination of culture, humor, and zaniness put into one simple form of animation. Like at the very end of the short, you hear Bugs Bunny literally come back to life and say, "It's an opera. What did you expect, Doc? A happy ending?" And he drops back. Like it's you can't beat that. There's just so much majesty presented in those 6 minutes that took animation from where it was in the movie theaters and set it into motion for television. Because Chuck Jones understood that the medium was changing, and he had to present animation in a form or a style that was going to fit television.
Yeah.
And I think that perfectly fit what the narrative was going forward in the medium.
Would you say that short is better than The Rabbit of Seville?
Ooh,
Yeah, and
that's another
The
one.
Rabbit of Seville was in the theatrics. That was a theatrical short, and I would say that the how do I word this? So Seville had exactly what theatrical audiences were expecting, because you have live action shorts that were pushing young stars, and you had the Looney Tunes shorts and the MGM shorts and the Disney shorts. You know, it was kind of mixed into this cavalcade of, you know, Three Stooges, Marx Brothers, and then you have Looney Tunes, you know, so I think it kind of got lost in the shuffle there.
Yeah.
But then What's Opera Doc was presented in like the 50s, I'm sorry, the 59, 61, I'm sorry, but it was when the theaters were stopping and things had to kind of change for audiences at home.
57.
You know what I mean? So I think it hit on a different level with audiences, and in terms of being at home and not changing the channel, and probably having a grown man tired of driving the bus coming home from work and seeing something of culture and relating to it and laughing at it. You know, it was like an every person kind of thing.
Yep. The last question. There's one.
Sorry, go ahead.
There's one last question. So let me go check it out. It is your favorite snack to go while watching Saturday morning cartoons. Kurt?
Ooh. Well, lately I'm trying to lay off of a lot of like sugary and like carby snacks. But it's like I mean, back then it's just I don't know if I really had like a go-to snack for like watching that stuff. I
It's
mean,
more like cereal for me.
I mean, cereal was obviously it was big on cereal, but but it's like I'm trying to think like I didn't really have like something I would just like be like a go-to thing other than like candy.
Yeah.
Bacon,
Like,
eggs, and
candy.
waffles for me. I loved waffles, pancakes, and all the syrup. I was like, yes, this is the prime.
Well, I mean,
this is the
okay.
prime
I mean, if we're
breakfast.
talking about food, then yeah, definitely pancakes, waffles,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I'm talking. I guess in terms of like snack, when I think of snack, I'm thinking of something that's just like easily obtainable, just like something in a bag or something like that, like chips or a cookie or something like that, or just I don't know if I really had a snack to go along with like what I watched. Amazingly enough, as big as I am, I'm kind of surprised by that. But yeah, I never really. It wasn't really like a thing I would do while watching TV. Amazingly.
So a snack that I would have with my breakfast, though, like a snack I used to have with my breakfast, though, because my mom was like, "Oh, it has yogurt." They discontinued these Yogos.
Oh yeah, the Yogos.
Oh yeah, I
Yogos
remember
were
those.
great.
I remember those too. They
I had
discontinued.
yogurts too.
They also discontinued the Trix yogurt years ago. I used to love those.
Yeah.
Which was another thing I would
I
have.
feel like I saw that. I saw Trix yogurt again recently.
Really, if they exist, I'm gonna have to look for them.
Yeah, let me see. Trix yogurt.
Yeah, see, for me on Saturday mornings, it was always the sugary cereal.
Yep.
I would down bowls of Fruit Loops and Lucky Charms and Cookie Crisp, and I could name all the brands. But
Yep, Trix
Trix
yogurt's
and
back.
whatever.
Oh, it's back. Okay. Cereal
But
for
when
me.
When it comes to snacks, though, fruit snacks like character
Ooh,
fruit snacks.
that is. Oh, yep.
Like,
okay, there we go. Like fruit
those-
snacks. Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
I do have an answer because, like, I was thinking in the context of just at home. We never really like had snacks at home. But when we go to my grandma's house, that was a different story. Like she had like a fridge stocked full of Squeeze-Its and like muffins and stuff like that. So Squeeze-Its are definitely what I would consider like the snack of choice. So, like
Nowadays, if I had the choice, I mean, I'm way too old to be doing this now. But if I had the choice nowadays to like eat something while watching, like let's say like One Piece, right? So if I'm still watching, I would probably get the Utz barrel of cheese balls.
Oh yeah, those.
And just arm it and.
Oh yeah, Cheetos
in a dream world.
Yeah. Like for me, it's really hard to say. Like I have had a lot of cereal, but because it's usually Saturday mornings is always breakfast. But aside from that, Trix yogurt would always be one. I would always have like I usually get like the most obvious things for me would be chips and all that. But the one thing I will say is just it's always like I'll give you one. It's breakfast, but you can have it whenever you want. Pop-Tarts.
There we go.
I could go with that. Yeah,
Can't go wrong with it.
Pop-Tarts.
Can't go wrong with it.
And that question was from Dragon. So yeah.
What kind? Oh, thanks, Dragon. What kind of Pop-Tarts?
I'm the type of person who always goes for strawberry or cherry, but I've had s'mores. I've had a couple other flavors too. I've never had brown sugar cinnamon though. I want to try it.
Ooh, that's one of the best
It's
ones.
great. That's actually my go-to. That and the s'mores.
My go-to, like even though I like don't eat as much as I'd want to these days, wild berry is my go-to. Wild berry is
Strawberry is always my favorite. Give me some frosted strawberry.
I'll try out the wild berry one at some point. But I think that's gonna do it. Before we wrap things up, Kurt, where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me in a lot of places. I go by various variations of my username, CurtDogg. But if you just go to www.curt.dog, you'll find me there. Like Twitter is @CurtisBonds, Twitch is Curt_dog, YouTube channel is CurtDogg. I'm currently going by Doggy Barra. As you can see by my ping tuber here. That CurtDogg, I don't know who that CurtDogg is. That's an imposter in the Twitch chat. But yeah, I wasn't able to get... Yeah, so it's Curt_dog on Twitch, @CurtisBonds on Twitter. It's CurtDogg on Instagram. But yeah, like I said, www.curt.dog has all my stuff. If you are going to Too Many Games outside of Philadelphia next month. I will be there doing my game show, Double Nintendo, on Saturday night at 8 p.m. on the main one-up stage. I'm also submitting it to MAG West, PAX West, Portland Retro Gaming Expo. So if you're any of those conventions, and in the future, MAG Fest and PAX East, you can find my game show there. I have a playlist of all those shows on my YouTube channel, so check me out there if you are into game shows and want to win some fabulous prizes and just have a nostalgic 90s game show time.
Yep. Jeremy, what about you?
All right. Well, of course, you could go to Linktree and type in the Nostalgia Alchemist. You could find all of my stuff that I do under the Nostalgia Alchemist banner there. But I am also Jeremy Lardiri. I am a union actor, so I'm trying to break back into doing some voiceover, and we're just going to see how it goes from there. But yes, if you are interested in all of the things that I'm doing under the Nostalgia Alchemist banner, please check out the Linktree link. And I am always here for whenever you remember why. I'm going to type my full name in the chat. Please Google me, and there's a lot of other extra fun things that you can find out about me through there. Thank you.
Yep.
And thank you everybody for watching as well.
Yep. And Hito?
Well, for me, you can basically find me on Twitch or YouTube or TikTok. Those are the main three that I use. I make a lot of shorts and stuff like that for TikTok that are not usually seen in my streaming stuff, and I usually go live and play kalimba music on TikTok quite often too, so you can listen and vibe if you want. YouTube has a whole bunch of games that I'm doing off of my Twitch, so these are things like Mega Man Battle Network. I'm recently finishing Amanda the Adventure, and I'm just editing the whole thing together now, and I'm also working on my my video essays as well, because I got a few video essays in the work for things like Custom Robo and maybe even Robopon in the future.
Yeah.
Which I endorse.
Which Jeremy endorses. He helped me out a little bit. I'm still working on it, but I'm also working on 2 other scripts. And Twitch, obviously. You'll find me on Twitch running the podcast called The Retrogade, which we talk about a whole bunch of nostalgic stuff, which both Jeremy and Shellshock have been on.
Yep.
We have another cool thing happening, plus a whole bunch of games that I do on Twitch as well. So yeah, you'll find me on Twitch, you'll find me on YouTube, and you'll find me on TikTok.
Yep. All right. Very good. All right. So you can obviously find me like everywhere on like all social media, ShellshockPrime everywhere, and I do daily streams on Monday through Thursdays with the occasional Sunday streams, where I would stream usually like this podcast on Sundays, but I usually do a lot of single player playthrough, sometimes do multiplayer, but that's just it. I don't know when the next episode is going to be for Sharing with Shellshock. It's probably going to be in the next 2 weeks, which the theme that I'm probably going to go with is going to be multiplayer gaming, but I still have to figure that one out. I at least have two more episodes planned before we take a break for the summer. So I appreciate you guys coming through, and to the guests, thank you guys for coming in. It was a great episode.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah,
Thank
this
you
was
for having
way
us.
longer than I expected it to be.
Exactly.
But
We went in.
Yeah, we have some opinions on cartoons, that's for sure.
We do. We do.
Thank you, Shellshock, for having us. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you kindly.
Yep. All right. Take care, everybody.
You too.